Yeah, I mean, it's just Luke Ford and the dangers of e-personality. If he's an introvert, incel or whatever, and when he comes out on the internet, he has this, like the dark side of his subconscious becomes conscious. I mean, to me, it's obvious. It's what happens. It's what's happening to you on the same way. But your unconscious, your subconscious is different than Gandalf's subconscious.
Logic and science dictate that not only consciousness doesn't exist, consciousness is in fact scientifically impossible. And like, yes, it is going to involve math and calculus and science and computer programming. I'm sorry. And that have different implications of the process with the connection between the levels of a person's soul and how it reincarnates.
But I'm not going to spur on the issue because I'm not a woman. It's not my issue.
About how one day you're going to fulfill the Canadian dream or the American dream. So you watch Seinfeld and say, oh, I could do it. And I'm going to go out tomorrow and go to work and have a great day, and I'm going to be successful. And one day I'm going to have my own apartment. I'm going to have my own parties with my own friends over, and I'm going to have my own possessions. I'm going to see things that I want and just buy them.
Yeah, but that's just so to say, a worthless opinion of yours.
Hello and welcome back to Week in Review with the one and only Doovid. I'm so sorry about the delay in getting started there. The show will be underway without further ado. Thanks for your patience, Doovid. Apologies for that. I was doing some recordings this week, which apparently screwed up my encoder, and also seems there was something up with YouTube. So why don't you tell us what's up, Doovid, and give us your introduction while I get everything set up on OBS here. Thanks again for being here.
Okay, great. Good to be back. Sorry, we had technical difficulties the last few weeks. Apologize about that. So another week by. Charles Moskowitz, I didn't end up streaming. He had messaged me that he wanted to go on Wednesday or Friday, and I actually messaged Claire, but she couldn't fit with the time. And then Friday I called Charles, and he didn't pick up. He didn't call me back, so I'm not sure what happened. We'll see. Hopefully next week I'll be back on schedule. Me and Jennifer did stream on my channel Wednesday night on Math in the Circle, and I guess it was kind of like low quality, got over 100 views, some viewership. But it's tough to make high quality educational content, but hopefully just put me and Jennifer on the same page so that we could actually make some sort of progress moving forward in the research, because like I said last week, we haven't had really any success at bringing people on. So like in terms of Week in Review, bringing on guests or booking shows, creating our own debates, unfortunately we haven't had really success with that. So rather at least move forward in the research, and God forbid the dangers of the e-personality, somewhere where you got nothing to show for streaming besides for fictional fantasies about ego or something like that. But so I wanted to.
Who are we talking about here?
I guess us. You're just saying that you gotta make progress, and like fictional progress isn't progress. So I wanted to make sure we're on the same page in pushing forward what we're doing, and some of the direction, more rigorous aspects of at least what I'm trying to accomplish on Week in Review. So people could check that out on my channel. Possibly it'll be a sign of things to come. Although it's more me encouraging Jennifer to do more streaming on her own channel, putting out videos, maybe math tutorials or something like that. So we'll see what happens with that. I popped on Politically Provoked last night, like the Norvin stream, and it was, I don't call it a disaster, but I guess Saturday night became like Norvin, and Norvin, I guess, is doing pretty prominently as a streamer. He seemed to be dominating the stream. Everyone seemed to be fascinated by him. And
Oh,
it was,
Norvin was dominating the stream, not you.
um,
You
I
didn't
guess
think it was
so.
going to get back to me that you were on that like instantly, basically?
I didn't message you. I didn't tell anybody.
I know you didn't, but you didn't think it was going to get back to me anyway. That's hilarious. But anyway, tell us about how you didn't Fed post for 95% of that show.
Yeah, well, I would have had a conversation. I would have talked about debate culture. I guess the host was drunk, and it was like a Claire stream. Like they had, God forbid, like some like Hitler avatar and Norvin and OV was on for hours. Although I came, Norvin was there also, and so it was kind of a joke.
I'm sorry, but Gilbert said you made an ass of yourself on the stream.
The what?
Gilbert just said you made an ass of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, possibly.
I mean, God forbid.
I mean, it's just how unfriendly streaming is. So I'm going to pop on, and it's like Hitler's on the stream, and they want like Hitler's going to be taken just as seriously as I am. So it was really probably a trap. I'm not sure if what the deal is with that stream, but it was basically a trap. But I went into it anyways, and it was say like Fed posting. So I got to defend the Jews.
How many times did you challenge that guy to a battle to the death? Like 7?
I don't even know who that was, but yeah, I mean, it just got dumb. It's like I didn't want to argue with a bunch of counter-Semite trolls. It was interesting to see Norvin, and it was ironic. It was like a return to the original streaming when I was on Babcast, where it's like these Jews that like hate me.
It was kind of weird because you're all like, we have to be serious, and then it's like, oh, he's on the shit stream. Okay.
Yeah, it's like like there's like some guy with a Hitler avatar on, and everyone's like okay with that, and then like I came on, and like this Jewish guy is just like bashing me, and it's like what the hell, you got Hitler on the stream, and like I'm the one you're bashing, and I guess the host, she was just drunk, and it's tough to run a channel, saying like Week in Review, saying we hardly have any viewership. Whether we're even making any progress. So at least they're making money. At least they have a big show. So, but it's ironic that Norvin rose to be this big star, and I wasn't irritated. I guess that's kind of what I expected. It just seemed kind of random, and God forbid, like Norvin and his crew come on, like they're defending me, like you're not taking Doooovid seriously. So it's like the host and her Jewish buddies are on, and they're just like bashing me, and then the counter Semites are saying you should take Doooovid more seriously. And it's interesting. I guess Norvin like said all these good things about me. It was almost surreal, because like Norvin's my opposition. To show like you be professional and cordial in streaming. So I guess.
Why do you think he was saying that?
Because I was pretty nice to him. I was like I helped him become a personality, and I made a point to say like I don't pick on people because they're different, and to a large extent I'm the one who introduced him to a lot of those people. I mean, really it was Brundle. It wasn't me. It was Luke Ford and Brundle, and they Luke Ford and Brundle basically wanted to do probably what these people were doing. So Luke Ford or Brundle just wanted to heckle, make entertainment the right stuff type gas station where just bring me on, and then have someone come on and make like Holocaust jokes, or God forbid, like that. So that was the genre of Luke Ford and Brundle. That's why I came in my argument with Luke Ford, like I'm supposed to be talking to Luke Ford seriously about Judaism, and then he's like like keeps on bringing on Norvin and Brundle, to God forbid make Holocaust jokes. But there was some popular.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that was like that stuff was over, to be honest. Lambie says that you and Norvin team bullied Frame Games.
You said, I mean, it's ironic because no one even heard of Frame Games. So I was trying to mention like how I know Norvin and why Norvin. It's funny because Norvin called me a rabbi, and he's like, like he used to talk with this rabbi, and And so like I come on, and I guess I don't even know if the Jews on the channel were kind of like crypto Jews, but Norvin's telling me like you got to bring the rabbi on, referring to me, and then yeah, I guess this other guy who like people, I guess people didn't even know he was Jewish or something like that, and he's coming on, he's attacking me.
Note that he, according to your own testimony, was half your age.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a college student. It was a dumb debate, and he was kind of like a Babs, although Babs took high birth.
No.
So, I mean, Babs took extremely high birth.
But he's nothing like Babs. Just that was the part I was disagreeing with.
Oh, no, I put him in the same kind of genre as Babs, but it's saying like, yeah, I mean, it's different when you took high birth and you actually have bank accounts with millions of dollars in it and are connected to very powerful people, and you're just, like a low ranking Jew or something like that. But I mean kind of like a high verbal IQ streamer type personality, and also kind of like the fascination with Norvin or alt-right personalities. But these guys didn't know anything. Like they didn't even the hosts, like they didn't even heard of frame games. There's a few people in the chat, so I was even like mentioning like how I met Norvin, the history in it, and God forbid, I'm going to show when I do the thing that's report by the SPLC, and I'll try to make sense of it. But like no one even heard of any of these names anymore. So like I was mentioning, so Norvin, gave like this rundown on who Frame Games is, and people like Frame Games, so how's that? What? And then these other people on the panel are like, how does Norvin know? I guess saying most Jews don't deal with what I deal with. They don't know the landscape of anti-Semitism, and so at this point, Norvin. I'm going to show the SPLC report in a bit about streaming and podcasts, but ironically, Norvin has like risen to be the leader of the revolution. So like Richard Spencer is basically washed up. Most of the personalities that I was talking to, like in the Warski days, that were counter Semites. I mean, they're probably still around, like Eric Stryker, heel turn, like Josh Neal, no apologies. Most of those guys didn't last long term, and no one even heard of them. So even if you mention this stuff, you'd be like, oh, this podcaster a few years ago, and because of YouTube, their material's not even there. So all the shows I did on the Brundlecast, all the people I spoke to, most of that doesn't even exist anymore. And even like Patrick Little, like I debated Patrick
Fame
Little.
is fleeting. That's why it's sort of immature to lust for it.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to get back to the map stream. But it seemed like if they're going to repeat the genre of kind of like Jews and counter Semites, and I guess it was my my ego, like that Norvin was basically willing to publicly admit that I was his debate coach, and I'm the one who helped make him famous. So there was a little bit of my ego that I couldn't resist, to come on and be like, "Yep, you're right." Maybe like Jennifer one day becomes a big personality. Maybe she's already a bigger personality. Just come on, like, "Yep, it was me who turned her into a streamer." Even if she turns against me, like let the record state that it was Doovid that did it. And so like it was kind of even though I try not to think like that, but the ego was always there. And so that was probably, and it was weird that it was it was Norvin, it was his gang that was like, bring on Doovid, because like God forbid there's no one to defend the Jews anymore. I don't, maybe in the olden days there were more people, like Judas Maccabeus disappeared. Joseph Cohn, like hardly made a video. You got to pay these guys. Saying like there's Jewish organizations, but really they've just went with the censorship lane. So there's almost no one left in the genre of Jews willing to have public conversations and debates with counter Semites, and even the old school, like almost turned to the old school like blood sports of just like death threats.
Let's not rehash that too much. But
so the genre basically
you're basically standing by all that rhetoric.
I mean, that's what I do. So
okay. All right.
I told you that's what I do when I first met. I've been pretty consistent. Like that's what I do. Um, but there's not, like, okay, there's a I'm not part of like the Simon Wiesenthal Center or something like that. I'm not a Nazi hunter, but like, yeah, that's what I do. I stand up for the Jews, and even in cases of violence, like I would take it to violence to defend the Jews. Um, so I did it, and it was a crap stream, and it was ironic because like it was basically the Jews saying like, we don't want you, we don't need your help, and then the irony of Norvin like saying good things about me. So it was pretty ironic. So I'll show the clip of that. They deleted. They got porn bombed, and I think that like they got porn bombed on it. So I think they took it down. They might put it on BitChute. It was
Oh,
actually
the porn bomb is the reason they took it down.
I think so. I'm not sure. Like I'm not exactly sure. Maybe the porn bomb's probably the worst case. Like they'll get it. They'll get it like almost guaranteed strike. A little bit of swearing, a little bit of threats of violence. Um, I'm not sure. Like, I mean, there's no way. Like, I'm going to show the SPLC report. There's no way that like the SPLC and the ADL or even the FBI is not monitoring stuff like that. They got Richard Spencer on the other week. Destiny's going to be on in a little bit. So like something like that, they're being monitored. And I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if, like, Brittany's like some sort of federal not agent, but what do you call them? Informant. Like it seems kind of weird, the show. So if you want, we could talk about that more. But you
I don't really want to bring heat on the channel. I'm sort of I'm not super interested in the shit stuff. Like I did a couple of those shit debates just to sort of say like, yeah, I'll do them, but I don't want to do them, and I don't really want to make people think that that's what I want to be doing.
I don't like shit streams. I was saying I don't.
Oh, come on, you love that one. It's fine. I'm not judging, and
No,
I'll do
I'm
it
saying,
too. Like
I
I'll go to
defend
the
I defend
mats.
the
You
Jews.
saw me with Tej. I will go to the mats for defending what I believe too. So it's fine. It's just
I don't even mind the violence, but it's in like I don't need.
I kind of do mind it on the channel, especially because I just don't want to be promoting that kind of stuff.
It's even like Adam Green, like, and at this point, it's like I'm getting more heat from the Jews, so it's like I'm not gonna. I don't self promote myself, so if there's no Jews calling like asking me to back them up, I'm not gonna put myself out there to like be a unrequested defender of the Jews. So, but they mentioned possibly
Was this about the Joshua guy?
Well, listen, that we will go over the SPLC report. Like I have that, and but saying like the haters never left. Like they might have all got banned. They might have got court cases on them. So like Josh Neal, I don't know. Like he might have got doxxed. Maybe his life has been ruined. I don't know. Maybe he's doing okay. Richard Spencer still might go to prison. He's on the verge of bankruptcy and possibly going to prison. A lot of these people, Asmoder is on the run from the police, has arrest warrants out for him. So they've cracked down on these guys pretty hard, but there's a large contingency of these people. They don't go away. So once you have platforms like this, like they'll start seeping up. Like Heel Turn might have got kicked down and deplatformed, but as long as there's platforms that are having these type content, there's millions of people who have opinions like that, and so it's ironic that that Norvin, largely thanks to Luke Ford and Brundlefly, is like an international character. Like he knows the biggest names in the business, like um, maybe even like Adam Green is saying, like, I mean, Adam Green's a popular streamer, but saying like in terms of being an international personality who knows organizationally what's going on, like Norvin has risen through the ranks. Rodney Martin, I don't know what happened to Rodney Martin. Was mentioning him, and it was just random. Like no one heard of any of these names. So
yeah, it's almost like these people weren't real people or something. It's so weird.
No, they're real people. It's like just a younger generation that didn't study history. So like, why would you have heard of Rodney Martin? Is like unless you watch Press TV or something like that, or you were watching it when it was live, you're not going to heard of him, or unless like you pay attention to Doovid or Norvin or something giving a history lesson. They used to have videos like the history of internet blood sports. So like Ralph, Ethan Ralph is still like all these guys are off YouTube, but like Worski was the biggest thing on YouTube, and if you're new to YouTube in the last 2 years, you probably never heard of these guys, and even Richard Spencer, if you like haven't I mean, he's on the news pretty often. Like they like even on CNN, they'll mention his name. But like if you're a younger person, you just started following this stuff in the last 2 years, you may not even have heard of Richard Spencer and these other names. So it's interesting. It's actually mathematical and it's related to streaming this SPLC report. So were you able to load up that chant? Or
Yep.
or it might crash your computer. It's not worth it.
I think we can actually do it this time.
Okay, maybe play like a minute and a half of this chant, and I'll just say quickly, this is I recorded live. I put a picture, but it's just audio recording in Jerusalem at your famous Hasidic group, the head rabbi of Jerusalem, of the rabbinic court, who kind of is at odds with the official establishment. So the rabbinic court that controls Jerusalem doesn't actually recognize the state, and it's very complicated. I mentioned that in the past. So when you're in Jerusalem, you see all these rabbis and these tens of thousands of ultra orthodox, and then there's actually like riots between the police and various factions. But the actual factions that guard the religion in Jerusalem are at odds with the state. So Dushinsky is one of the heads of what's called Badatz, which is the best din of Jerusalem, the rabbinic court of Jerusalem, that the majority of Orthodox Jews recognize, and that rabbinic court doesn't recognize the state. So like Lowell Galen had the Rabbi Weiss on his channel, and he was head of the rabbinic court that is actually recognized by Israel, and has some sort of legal official status. But the majority of the Jews don't follow Lowell's rabbi. They follow these rabbis who don't follow Israel. But besides the politic, this was a wedding. This is actually like called the Sheva Bracha. 7 days after a wedding, you're supposed to have meals for a whole week. And they made a big celebration in the middle of Jerusalem. They closed off the major streets, and thousands of people were there. And so I'll let Jennifer play the tune, and then I'll try to sing it a little bit for a second too, and then mention this concept of a mitzvah tans, this interesting Hasidic custom That's enough.
Okay, I think
Okay,
it's stop now.
Okay, so this is a classic 4-part Hasidic tune that is models the 4-letter name of God with the Yud He Vav He, which has a 1 2 3 2 part with the slow introduction, second part, a high third part that mirrors the first part, and then a repetition of the second part is the majority of Hasidic tunes that are meditations on the 4-letter name of God. So try to, if people are listening to that, I'll chant it quickly. So the first part, I na 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 na, I na 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 na, I na 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 na, I na 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 na, I na 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 na, I na 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 na, and the third part, which is a somewhat like a higher version of the first part. And it would repeat the third part. So that's actually a very famous Hasidic tune. If anyone is like non-Chabad Hasidic, like mainstream Hasidic, Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Borough Park,
You know
Jerusalem.
what's so cute is all the happy commenters in chat right now.
Yeah, it's a great it's a great tune, and I'm going to show it's famous as the Mitzvah Tantz song of the Satmar Rebbe. So Hasidim have these huge weddings because they're almost all are selected, and when the rabbi has marries off their child, they have these huge gatherings, like thousands, tens of thousands of people will be there, and it's all men. Like the sexes are separated, and at the end of the ceremony, they bring out the bride, and so I'll show some pictures. So, did you want to say something, or should I do my link so we can review, which isn't nearly as much as I had last week?
Might as well go ahead with you seem like you got momentum, so I'll just full screen your display here.
Okay, so is it working?
Yeah, just about. Just gotta clear the chat comments here.
So these are classic, Hasidic wedding custom where the bride comes out and the father of the bride dances with the bride connected to like a gartel, which is a clothing that's tied around the waist to separate the lower organs from the higher organs, and it's a very famous custom, and so it'd be all men, and the rabbi's daughter will come out, and the groom, the father of the bride, sometimes the father-in-law of the bride, sometimes the brothers will all dance connected to the bride. Well, the bride holds this gartel, this string connected to the person dancing, and it has some kind of like, God forbid, like sexual overtones, but it's saying they're meant to get rid of incestual desire, or something, that the bride, virgin on her wedding night, will be married to the groom, and so in the ancient times, God forbid, you have like first right of the nobility or something like that, but sometimes
Talking
older
about
women.
prima nocta.
I'm not sure what that is.
What is first right of nobility supposed to mean? Just seems very obscure.
Is that the Latin term? Well, it's mentioned in the Talmud, like ancient practice, but it's meant to sublimate forbidden sexual desire. May say that the woman now is being married, and she'll only have one partner the rest of her life, and but she's entering the family. So from the father, the father-in-law, the brothers, you're saying that she's going to be part of the family, but in terms of sexual relations, it's only going to be with the husband. So there's some sort of like welcoming her to the family and a sublimation of forbidden sexual desires. And it's an ancient custom. There's more writings or people. It's called the mitzvah tanz. Tanz is the Yiddish Germanic for dance. And there's videos. So if you look online of Hasidic videos, these are the most popular Hasidic videos. And so here you'd have the father-in-law dancing with the new groom on the wedding night. So the bride standing there, all the women seated, and if it's a big rabbi, all the students of the rabbi, and the rabbi dancing with his future son-in-law on the wedding night. And so it's a very nice custom. And saying there's these special songs. So this song that I sing, the I nine 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 is a I think it's the Satmar tune. And Satmar is probably the biggest of all Hasidic groups. So there's videos, and you see tens of thousands of Hasidim, dancing like that, and just the bride out there in front of all of them with her father. So it's a wonderful custom. And maybe next week I'll do another famous mitzvah tanz tune like the Bubba one. And so it's a nice custom. We could talk about that more. And so here were some interesting things I saw this week. Here was Steven Pinker had a talk.
Oh my God!
With Niall Ferguson of the Hoover Institute, and it was kind of lame. Like, I guess Pinker's new book on rationality. So I guess they're playing ad is so they're talking about the role of rationality, but like he hasn't really taken it to the base level of rationality or kind of like the hard problem of consciousness. What is the base desire of people? But it's interesting they're talking about evolution or the role of violence or various factors in the limits of rationality in human motivation. So Pinker, head of the department in Harvard, Niall Ferguson, I think he's at University of California now, but he's also was at Harvard. So just like I showed the Royal Institute, Pinker and Ferguson are probably biggest names in academia. So I want to check that out. Here's the debate last night. I guess it started as a debate between this guy Pone Daddy and Dylan on like capitalism versus socialism, and then I guess afterwards it kind of just came into like Norvin, and then kind of like racism, kind of like argue if you're avowed open racist, which I guess is very interesting to people. And then I get the link, I come on at some point and come on, and they took it down. So and, God forbid they got your ADAL, and it was kind of a crap show. But I think they're live right now with Destiny, so that may have started the show with Destiny, which is live now. I'll probably watch that, although it's also kind of a crap content. This was a great video. This is like a travel log with very popular videos. I've been showing like Peter Santinello. Peter Santinello's in Dearborn, Michigan, right near my house now, with the Muslims. So this woman, Brooke Walding, I don't know if she's from Chicago, but just like a travelogue streamer, this blonde here ends up visiting the local Hare Krishna farm, and they're offering cow cuddling. So you could come, and they have like Airbnb, and they have cows there, and you could cuddle with the cows, and so it's a cute video. And I guess cow cuddling is probably a pretty cool thing. Cows are wonderful animals, and so props to Brooke Walding for making this video. I encourage people to check it out. I was arguing on the chess server with this vegetarian about milk. He was saying like, I'm not a vegan, I'm milk, and it's saying that you're supposed to take milk from the cow. Like I'm a Hindu, and I'm not a vegan. I venerate the cow, and the cow is meant to be milked, and the cow gives freely of her milk without asking anything in return. Have you ever milked a cow, Jennifer?
Not in this life.
So if anyone's ever milked a cow as a kid or something like that, you could just go right up to the cow and milk it. Usually, if the cow isn't in a dangerous position, like the cow doesn't ask who you are, you just kind of like go up and milk it. And in nature, in India, cows go free. You could just take a random wild cow and milk it. And even animals, cows are known to give milk not only to calves, but to other animals, sometimes like stray deer or orphan deer or bunny or something like that will take milk from cows. So they're pretty exceptional animals like that. So it's pretty cool. The Hare Krishnas, they got a farm and they have cows and they have Airbnb and this cow cuddling thing that I guess is semi-popular. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, president, during World War II, they had a long conference about the Holocaust and the U.S. Role during the Holocaust. I watched the first two videos, but I'll probably watch through all of those. This was an interesting video. I shared this channel a few weeks ago, AGI Laboratory, kind of like artificial intelligence and mathematics and consciousness. A video on fractal-like structures in Indian temples. And, it's pretty interesting. They analyze mathematically or put into computers and analyze the patterns in some of the ancient temples. Did you end up watching that?
No. Might have just taken a quick look through it, but yeah, not really.
Okay, so I think I shared this channel a few weeks ago. It's history that kind of has these like old structures around America. So they were in Detroit, and they did two buildings. The Book Tower, like 120 years ago, that's now kind of abandoned and deteriorated at one point, was meant to almost be competitive with the skyscrapers in New York, and also the famous train station, the Michigan Central, that's been abandoned for like 50 years and in decay. And now Ford Motor Company is supposedly investing a whole bunch of money, but just a sign of the blight and deterioration of Detroit. Detroit had been one of the five biggest cities in Michigan about World War II at the height of the auto industry, and then after the '67 riots, rebellion, racial tension in Metro Detroit. Even before that, population has followed. Detroit had over 2 million people in the city itself, and now it's down to like 700,000. And so this like great train station, which was one of the greatest buildings in the country at the time, has been abandoned and decaying for decades. So this channel, I guess, did a special in Detroit. God forbid, in Bangladesh, a Hindu Hare Krishna devotee was martyred, was lynched by hundreds of Muslims, and I'm not exactly sure. I think they raided the temple, destroyed the deities, and killed the priest. So God forbid, His Grace Sri Partha Das, was martyred for being a Hindu in Bangladesh. And they're trying to seek the authorities. It happens every year or two. You'll see that they'll ransack a temple in Islamic areas, and like Claire, we had those debates, but that the Muslims did largely conquer large parts of India for a period of time. So those tensions are still high, and so God forbid this young man was martyred this week. This was a Yale video. I shared these in the past. They've been doing like a monthly series out of the physics department. Maybe we talk a little bit about this, and it's about causality from the point of view in physics. and so just say like A could cause B, B causes A, or A and B have common causes. So she seems to say that until Bertrand Russell, causality was not a large part of physics, and the question of you're saying there's physical laws that recognize patterns in relationships, but in terms of causes, that historically physics didn't actually answer causes. It just said this is the relationship of what happened, but to say did this cause that wasn't a language of physics. And we did the stream on mathematics and whether mathematics and logic is causal, but so it's an interesting question of causality. Jennifer talks a lot about the laws of causality. So she examines like the history of science and physics, and it's interesting to look like what's the role of causality in physics. And in a pure physics, as you say, like physics doesn't actually have any statements on causality. It's like gravity. What causes gravity isn't the question of physics. Saying there is this relationship, and we have an exact mathematical um, understanding of the relationship, but to say this causes this, and even in terms of basic laws like momentum, conservation of momentum, reactions like pool ball, billiard balls hitting each other, to say like one ball hitting the other ball, and the conservation of mass and momentum uh, causes is questionable. How do you use the word cause in physics? And then obviously the historical analysis of how the great minds of the history of physics thought about that. So if that's interesting talking about, we talk about that, and encourage people to check out that Yale video. That was actually pretty good. Seth was on Mindscape with Sean Carroll. So Sean Carroll is a materialist, famous physicist.
I tried to watch this. I literally could not finish it.
Yeah, so Sean Carroll's probably one of the most famous streaming physicists. Gets quite a bit of views, talks to personalities. There's the other one from World Science Fair. So like top three. And so he talks to Anil Seth about consciousness and materialism, heart pump consciousness, emergence, information. So like I mentioned, like Steven Pinker. I usually follow the top names within the academy. Matt Dillahunty was on Modern Day Debate yesterday, arguing about does the Bible promote slavery? Which is an interesting question. And like the promote, so clearly the Bible has slavery, but to say does it promote slavery? Does it say slavery is a phenomenon and it's regulated? That certainly the Bible regulates slavery, but to say does it promote slavery? So it was kind of a crap debate, and unnecessarily maybe like unfriendly. And in related news,
like the guy who wasn't Matt Dillahunty, I couldn't even understand what he was saying at the time. It was an unbelievably, I just couldn't understand anything he was saying. It's like he didn't punctuate or anything.
I would have given a better performance than this guy, I think, but it is what it is. I watched it when I was playing chess this week and actually won the weekly Horde tournament, and I was watching that during part of it. And so in related news, Theology Unleashed, Arjun is just very, very busy, so it doesn't look like my third program of Ben Watkins is going to be anytime soon. So Arjun, encouraged me to just have Ben Watkins on my channel. I think Ben agreed. So I'm going to reach out and schedule it. It's possible that will be this week if I reach out and he wants to do it right away. But hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll have Ben Watkins, not for a debate, but a chat on my channel. And we'll probably do like a bio. I guess he was brought up kind of like an evangelical Christian, and now is a atheist theologian, philosopher, and pretty knowledgeable, and he's on quite a bit of streams, and he's relatively friendly, and like the new atheist where he's not completely rejecting the possibility or the benefits, kind of like Matt Dillahunty or T-Jump, where it's like you only believe in religion because you don't know how to use logic, or you're weak and you're dumb. So Ben Watkins is more of the attitude like there's benefits to religion, there's reason to believe in religion, although he's in the school where he doesn't believe in it. But so hopefully that'll happen sometime in the next few weeks, possibly even this week. If I reach out, he wants to do it, I might just do it right away, and I'll share it on my social media. Okay, so here's this new SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, on Inside the Far Right Podcast Ecosystem, Building a Network of Hate. And they track podcasts over the last few years, and they have a new updated history of podcasts. So here you can see a time lapse. You're like, I guess the Political Cesspool, which was this guy Edwards, which was a national radio show, kind of like KKK, where Richard Spencer was first a guest, like 2010, like leading into Trump, and then the creation of Mike Enoch and Eric Stryker in TRS, to like Heel Turn and the various shows till today, and the rise and fall, and they did like an infographic where they listened to like 1,500 podcasts, and they're mentioning it's the same cast, a lot of the same characters. They mentioned there's over 800 guests. So obviously, like SPLC, Anti-Hate Monitor, extremely well funded, hundreds of millions of dollars. In some ways more powerful than the ADL. They differ a little bit than the ADL because the ADL is connected to mainstream Judaism, and most major Jewish centers have an ADL center. ADL is an official member of AIPAC, as where the SPLC is not directly affiliated with Judaism, although it was largely founded and funded by Jews, although it might even be more African American than Jewish, but they're extremely well funded. They have over 100 people watching. So maybe political provoked. Someone from the SPLC is getting paid to watch my shit stream last night. Because they're monitoring hate. But it's interesting, saying like that they watched over 1,500 shows and over 15 years, and they said like
So
800.
really, it was maybe like a bit of an act of service to throw a couple good comedic punchlines in for the SPLC agent watching that shit stream, monitoring hate on some level.
Well, no, I don't work with the SPLC, but I like they do good research, and they're like, I don't agree with their activism, but yeah, they do good research, and they're extremely well funded. They have like I think like a $400 million endowment or something like that. So
is there any way to scroll past this? It is giving me motion sickness at this point.
So here you can see their data set where they collected data like the Daily Show, TRS, like 600 episodes, various ones, Strike and Mike, 100 episodes, Helicopter Mom, the Political Cesspool, 1,266, Killstream, McSpencer Group, Goy Talk, and they say of the 882 people in the data set, the vast majority appeared only one or two different podcast shows. But there's some people that are kind of on a whole bunch of shows. So you see Mike Enoch, and you see he's been on 9 different shows, and Richard Spencer's been on 9 different shows. So you kind of see like the network effect, and the various names. So like Josh Neal or something like that. He's not even on this. But maybe he like they. I mean, he's in their study, of like the 800 some people. But maybe like Josh Neal would have been on 3 of these, so he didn't even make their like top 20 list. Like here, they only have like Matt Heimbach and 5 of them, Jason Kessler, 6 of them. He was on Luke Ford, and they mentioned the modern decline, that they're down about half in their numbers in the last year and a half. Killstream is they you mentioned that, and then they have a whole long thing just on Richard Spencer's origins and rise, and it's basically Richard Spencer used the podcast, like Event, Unite the Right, Charlottesville, the college tour was basically done through podcasts, and so that's and I'll show this last one, and it also has the daily show of the rise and fall. I guess their numbers are down like 70% from a few years ago. So now it said like the rise and fall that mentioned going to video, audience interaction, paywall, subscriptions, deplatforming, and it's saying that most at this point the numbers have deteriorated maybe a little bit, like 50%. They're down like 50%. And the personalities, so say at this point, the alt-right, the far right doesn't really have any big personalities. Like Richard Spencer is largely renounced, like he's like Biden supporting left wing now. Mike Enoch might still be around, Eric Stryker, but their audience has fallen. They're not really out there. Like Mike Enoch, Eric Stryker, they were, like I even debated Eric Stryker, like Luke Ford, and there would be videos, and it's like Asmoder, like he's on the run from the law, and so say it's reverted to kind of being leaderless right now. So I mentioned politically provoked, where someone like Norvin and OV could step up as leading podcasters, where maybe Norvin, OV get hundreds or thousands of views on their podcast and have connected into the network. So at this point, like Norvin or OV probably haven't been a guest on any of the major hate networks, but they're a big name, and they've spoken to a lot of the big names, and they're emerging in the network. So it's interesting to see, okay, like we can review the rise and fall of personalities that like Mike Enoch, Richard Spencer, Eric Stryker, Josh Neal, Heel Turn, the rise and fall of personalities, where those personalities have fallen, and now probably like Norvin and OV are at their peak popularity. So it's kind of ironic. I thought it was that appeared on Politically Provoked the other day, that it'd be ironic. Like I was mentioning Frame Games and all these names from a few years ago, no one even heard of them, but like now people have heard of Norvin. So with that, that's my week in review. And Nicholas Petrus, I didn't share his YouTube page, but I was checking out. I was talking to him about the hero's journey and Rick Beato on Facebook a tiny bit, and I saw his YouTube page actually got quite a few views. He's got some videos with tens of thousands of views, playing the piano. Maybe one day we should have Nick on talking about music in kind of the hero's journey or something to music. And it's interesting, JF is not mentioned. Adam Green is not mentioned. So the ADL, like Adam Green is like one of their number one guys. JF has basically avoided being put on, even though he had like David Duke and he was on Warski's, like that he's spoken to probably 10, 20 of these major personalities, but JF isn't on any of these lists. He's not even on the ADL. So, props to JF for avoiding the monitor of being called a beacon of hate. So he was pretty smart. He's still out there, and he's not even really on the monitor of these hate watchers, hate stoppers.
Thanks for that detailed explanation. Appreciate that. Is that all you wanted to say about your week?
Yeah, so that covers my week in review. So I'll hand it back to Jennifer for her week in review, if she wants to comment on any of that. There are quite a few things that we could probably talk about at length, like of some of the videos or philosophical things I shared, and then the math video we did. Maybe we'll talk a little about that also, but let's hear from Jennifer what she did this week. I'm not sure if she has stuff to share also besides her activities. but go for it.
Besides my activities, eh? Nice and vague. Nice and vague. All right, let's see if I can get this thing going. There's some concepts I just don't want to look them up. I don't want to go there because I know I'm going to become triggered and have to go on some kind of quest to correct the error, and it's always so contentious to do that. So, some stuff, i.e. bolts and brains, it's like, what even is that? And as usual, it's just atrocious. Just atrocious. Application of this chronological contradiction entails something. Yeah. It appears that it means that the fully... I can't even conceive of what this means, to be honest. I'm still trying to get my head around how somebody could come up with this. There's definitely a concern that a lot of metaphors seem to always sort of turn into something that involves chopping up people's brains or hypothetical killing situations. Like, that's kind of sick in the head and has nothing really to do with philosophy, which is about virtue, not just the absence. Virtue is not the absence of vice. So that was one thing I noticed. I have a bunch of extremely disorganized notes. I really wanted to finish a blog post before the show today, and I totally didn't, because it ended up being a way more difficult concept than originally. It ended up being many more hours than I originally estimated it would take up, as many things end up being. So let me see here. Did I do anything worth note this week? Let's see here. No, this is not even from this week. I'm still trying to, yeah, I've really got nothing here. So, dude, you better come back, because apparently I've done nothing this week. Nothing at all. Oh, one thing I thought of. Okay. Cogito ergo sum and the Platonic cave metaphor appear to be contradictory in some sense. So which trumps the other? And how did that get missed? I was extremely annoyed by this whole entanglement argument being proffered as somehow rival to my theory. Like, come on. Entanglement is a part, it's like a facet of my theory. So to say that entanglement is fundamental is like, no, the measurement limit is fundamental. Entanglement is a property of the measurement limit. If you could do this stuff, you'd know that already, but you can't, because you're stuck in this incredibly nonsensical way of looking at the world, which includes fixation on false tautologies like A equals A. There's one thing I was thinking about. A equals A is completely antithetical to knowledge. And rather than that, there should be a hierarchical equivalence principle. I don't know, that's subject to change. But basically, like, it's not about whether two things are exactly the same. It's about how the same two things are. Like, they could be, 10%, 20%, 30%, etc. the same. But it's not a percentage, because these manners of being the same are not on the same spectrum. They're more so, you could think of them as being perpendicular to each other, but nothing's truly perpendicular. There's only these localized regions where perpendicularity makes sense as a temporary modeling device. So I was able to think of it, I was able to think of 6 different ways things could be the same, that all those 6 ways were different in between each other. So I think this probably makes more sense than A equals A until the end of time. Like, that's eventually just going to be way too boring. You want philosophy that you're not so bored in the course of doing it that you're, have to like supplement your sensory experience with video games. No. Obviously, that's about all I have to say. I mean, I have notes right here, which apparently I can't even read what I wrote. So we better just do a free-form conversation. I can get my thoughts together. Doowovid, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I read quite a few books on mathematics. Like we did the stream on my channel this week about the circle. So I was reading these books on the history of algebra and the function. And it was interesting, Galois, that memes if he comes around, Galois, who one of the fathers of the function, the Galois theory of the function. And Galois was someone, famous mathematician that was killed in a duel. And actually, the night before he fights the duel and gets killed, he uh, he writes his friend a letter, like his last thoughts on his theory. And part of the theory we have today is from this letter that he wrote, knowing that he was going to duel the next day, and he dies. Like he was just he wasn't a very good dueler, and but at that point, he didn't have any choice but to God forbid, like Fed posting, and someone called him out, fight to the death. He had to do it, and he lost. But his theory of the function. I read this book on the history of the theory of function from Euclid to Galois, and I mentioned Euler in the f of x notation on the stream. My stream, we went over the proof of the famous equation of e to the I pi equals -1 from the Euler formula. And what is a function? And the history of a function that we now have today, where people have had higher order mathematics, are probably familiar with this concept of f of x equaling something, and then you could plug in where x is an unknown, and then you could plug in. So if you have f of x, like Taylor series or something, like you can plug in f of 0 or f prime, f double prime for derivatives or the integral. But this idea that we call a function, and that you would frame it like this: f of x in parentheses equals some function of x, like x squared plus something, or whatever. And then if you wanted to permutate a point in the function, you would plug a number in there, and then that number would plug in for the variable. So like the philosophy of math, like what is a function, and then also causality. So let's say we have a function in terms of physics laws. So when you learn elementary physics, you might have your laws of um, position, velocity, acceleration. For example, velocity equals distance divided by time, and acceleration equals distance divided by time squared. But classically, we would write that in an f of x form, where x distance is f of x. So f of x equals a constant, and for your velocity, you have a t or dt, and so the also the canonization. So just like the Bible, you have the prophets and you have theology, and then there's this sort of canonization process, like the Council of Nicaea, where reincarnation becomes a forbidden belief in the Trinity and all these doctrines. Or at some point, the Hebrew rabbis, the men of the Great Assembly, get together and they decide what the official books of the Bible are going to be part of the canon. And even today, canonization of saints, the canonization process, that mathematics also goes through a canonization process, and that's the importance of history of physics. So like, okay, you might have been taught physics, you might know the current state. I think actually this week is the Automotive Testing Expo, so maybe I'll go down and stream um, live engineering expo, get equipment, gather some reading material, see the latest equipment. But so if you're an engineer, you're making auto engines or something like that, you have your latest theories, and the theories are practical because they're based on engineering and things that actually work and produce products or help understand. Um, and then there's some sort of canonization process, and like debating evolution. You're saying evolution has largely been canonized like Thomas Kuhn and the structure of scientific revolutions. There's some sort of canonization process. And me and Jennifer don't believe evolution. We think it's a poor science. However,
I do believe in evolution. It's just that what they're calling evolution is not evolution. That's all. I mean, just to be clear,
the buzzwords, the complications, but it's like there's some sort of canonization process. And then if you go against what has been canonized, you're a heretic. And so it's interesting to use that term canonization in terms of science, just like religion. And if you look at something like like the function, what is a function? And historically, um, you like the history of algebra. The ancients knew like the quadratic formula, squaring, completing the square. If you have like y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and then there's a method to complete the square, or no, I'm sorry, it'd be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and then to complete the square so you could solve for x. And even in high school, I learned how to derive. I remember even in my high school algebra class on the test, we had to actually derive the quadratic formula. And then you had the quintic formula and the quadric formula and obviously Fermat, famous theorem showing that the Pythagorean theorem doesn't work for integrals for x cubed plus y cubed equals z cubed and higher. But it took hundreds of years, that like thousands of years, people worked on it, and so the quadratic formula was known in ancient times, but it was like a recipe, and it was in words, so that someone said if you had such a thing where there's some sort of reason that you had some concept that we didn't have abstract knowledge to call like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. In the ancient times, there would have been like a paragraph, or like in the Vedas. The Vedas doesn't have like symbols of x, and that's Descartes, who said the unknowns are at the end of the alphabet, like x, y, and z, and the constants are from the beginning of the alphabet, a, b, and c. So there's verses in the Vedas like of the quadratic formula, and it's kind of like a process that explains how you complete the square and get the solution. But it's basically like a recipe: do this, do that, like an algorithm. And then the Arabs have algebra, which is a systemized process where you have the idea of an equation, an equal sign, and this concept that if you do something to both sides of the equal sign, that it's still valid, and therefore you could go in steps that like we would do today. I don't know if it's interesting to you, like just as exercise, if you wanted to do like a paint share, like test Jennifer's on spot ability, like can you quickly prove the quadratic formula?
Right this minute, I'm not going to attempt it because I've seen my own skills with on the fly math.
Do you remember?
Yeah, well, completing the square is if
you
you
remember
have
the solution offhand to the quadratic formula?
Think about it. You have x plus b to the power of 2, and you FOIL that, so it's x plus 2x, or sorry, x plus 2b plus b squared. Right?
We want to do a paint share?
Not really, not on Weekend Review, but it's a pretty simple process. You just expand, like you assume it has a factorized form x of a particular form, and you just match up the numbers to each other. But no, I'm not going to start tap dancing on the spot right now. That would be a little too close to being trotted out as a circus animal, and that's my whole thing where I just say, I can't do it.
Yeah, so we got Jinglestick here, who seems like a math guy. But so there's a verse in the Vedas. The ancient Egyptians possibly, like, they knew how to complete the square and solve the quadratic formula, but they didn't have an abstract concept of a formula, of an equal sign, of a process. So it was kind of like a recipe that if you had such an unknown situation, that this is what you do to get the solution. And then where they didn't have negative numbers, or various things. And then the Arabs have algebra till it's been canonized with Descartes using the XYZ ABC notation, to Euler, where you have the concept of f of x, where you might have f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and then you'd have f of 0 or f of 1, or even the concept of graphing it. So there were graphical solutions. So in the ancient times, they solved the quadratic formula with geometric arguments and drawing out squares, actually, that they actually drew out squares to solve it. But the concept of having a coordinate system and then even to be able to graphically solve equations, and the qubit, for example, if you have it'd be like Pascal's triangle or the various, but if you had ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d equals 0, or qubit, that there are solutions similar to the quadratic formula, and actually took like thousands of years. There's correspondence. A lot of the greatest minds tried to solve it. Some people came up with solutions but couldn't solve it, and it's quite
Didn't occur to people that maybe putting things in exponentials like that was not the right plan due to this huge problem of factorization? That not make it onto anyone's desk or anything? They just plodded through, failing at the cubic. Does the cubic one even have explicit solutions? I think it may have like a class of explicit solutions.
The cubic and the quadric have solutions. And I think the quintic was proven that there isn't a solution like that.
Well, was it? Wait a minute. Is it based on Gödel's incompleteness theorem?
No, I'm saying these were solved by Arabs or Italians hundreds of years ago. I mean, you could.
Oh, okay. So the purveyors of the Kalam cosmological argument got you.
Yeah, algebra, and the. Well, I mean, similar. Yeah, I mean, some of the same names and people but in the ancient times it was more about geometry, and so they wouldn't have had an abstract idea of an equation. It would have been about squares.
It would have been more relational things. There would have been a manner of effectuating computation, but there was more of a convergence between division and multiplication, because you have a whole, and if you divide it up into parts, if you have like a big rectangle or whatever, that's kind of multiplication and division at the same time. There's the number of parts and is multiplying one dimension by the other, but then you're also dividing it into the number of constituent parts. So I don't think they resolve plus and minus the way we do. They had some sort of inverse operator that was a monistic, aka was started from the one and all, or the all. I don't even know what you want to call it. The all, as opposed top down as opposed to bottom up, I guess.
If you look into the history, and say presumably according to our historic record, that these things came into time at a certain being, and then you could read the literature of the mathematicians of earlier times and how they went about solving things in the various methods, like division, for example. Maybe one week, try to demonstrate it. It looked pretty interesting. But for example, now when we do division, the method that we use to do long form division, historically, they had kind of like a square way. There were different methods, or even multiplication, where we put the numbers and sign and carry the numbers and add them. That there were different methods that people used, and then it kind of becomes canonized. That if you go to school, you learn basic long division and this stuff, and it's for the record. Like if you actually read the literature of like Pisa, Leonardo da Pisa, or whatever, some of the Fermi, they had different methods, and now that it's been canonized, like everybody who's school training university system largely does it according to the canonized system. And so I mentioned on my stream on math that we didn't talk to, and we talked a little bit at the end, but I wanted more to be on permutation and actual, solving problems. This concept that of dualism, or monism, that diagram I showed a few weeks ago, that algebra is to the spiritual realm and geometry is to the material realm. And so in the ancient world, the Egyptians had questions like, how do you build pyramids? How do you divide fields? How do you taxes, or various things that were physical problems that they needed to solve. And if they had the quadratic formula or a solution for pi, it was a method to get the solution, and it was written in like a sentence type form that says do this, do that, like a recipe. And but it was a physical. The reason why they were doing, like in Greek times, Euclid uh, was largely for physical things. Like Euclid, from the Pythagorean Platonist, starts looking at it as a dualistic nature, where there's some sort of non-material science that is descriptive of the material realm, but this non-material science that is descriptive of the material realm doesn't exist in the material realm. We've been discussing the past few weeks. And then the common Cartesian coordinate system. Me and Jennifer went over. Jennifer even pulled out a paint pad of deriving the cylindric and spherical coordinates. But the idea that you have an x and y coordinate, and like a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared, or cylindrical coordinates, a sphere is x squared plus y squared plus z squared equals r squared. That's the definition of a sphere. And then you have a sphere as the physical object. So from a dualistic view, there's some sort of this concept of the equation x squared plus y squared is the spiritual concept that's related to mind, like mind and matter, consciousness, and mind existing in a separate realm, like Cartesian dualism and the Cartesian coordinate system, where you have the xy axis, and then you have equations of geometric shapes. And you could have the equation, and the equation is by definition the shape, and then you actually have the shape. And so Descartes, who was a dualist, there's a direct correlation between dualism and this concept of algebra and geometry. And so I talk like the quadratic formula, solving the cubic, or solving equations for unknowns, versus the concept of using these equations to describe geometric shapes. And so like Descartes, Euler, Leibniz looked at it in this spiritual way of this parallel where algebra represents the spiritual realm and geometry represents the material realm. Although there's dichotomies, and some people say that really geometry is also part of the spiritual realm, and it goes back to the ancients, where already Euclid and Plato were already looking at geometry as an element of the spiritual realm. But later, this concept that doesn't really get fully brought out till Descartes, where you have a clear equation like x squared plus y squared equals r squared, and that's your circle. I mean that, or your sphere, or your object, and you could reduce it. You say like, okay, here's your physical object, but here's a formula that can produce your physical object.
I see. So the formula is the cause of the geometry, and thus the algebra as the analogous to the spiritual.
Causes, I mean, I mentioned causation, and we could talk about that also, like physics and mathematics, and saying causes also interpretable. So it doesn't have to be the cause of it. And you could say the opposite, that the circle is the cause of the equation, or you could interpret if you have A and B, where A is the equation and B is the geometric object. Does one cause the other, or is there a cause of both of them, or are they mutually at the same time? Like if you change, like a calculator, if you had a program like Wolfram or something where you could drop and drag, where if you change the physical object, it instantaneously changes the formula, and if you change the formula, it instantly changes the shape. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that one causes the other. But yeah, I mean, generally, like I had the diagram. If the spiritual realm is the cause of the material realm, that's looking like the formula is the cause of the shape. But there are, like multiple truth hypothesis. There are other systems where say like no, that one doesn't cause the other. They're both have a relationship to each other and are mutually.
Did you just stop talking for any particular reason? You seem to stop talking right in the middle of the sentence there.
I'm not sure if I cut out or whatever, but like I thought that was something interesting. Like if memes is on, like I mentioned Galoy, like in the theory of the formula that he actually sent to his friend the night before he died in the duel. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting concept, like the canonization, the idea of what is a function, and the parallel of algebra and geometry to the physical spiritual dichotomy. And say it's not just something I found interesting. This is actually what Descartes himself writes. Like the Cartesian coordinate system, the person who created it was, so to say, in today's term, he would be considered a mystic. Like compared to the current state of canonization, Descartes, Leibniz, Euler would be considered mystics, and this is how they understood things.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, not too many mystics around these days, are there?
Yeah, I mean, T-Jump, you said basically everybody's a materialist these days. And, then the question I had when I had these diagrams, what's the origin of higher order rules? So like T-Jump is just like, all there is materialism. So, but the material world seems to be governed by higher ordered rules. And so what's the origin of these higher level ordered rules? And what makes it that these higher ordered rules govern, so to say, why is it that, this law governs that they're universal? Why can't it be they're only local, that the laws, but they're universal? And you could use that as, so to say, an argument towards the spiritual realm, an argument towards God. Just the fact that there's these universal higher ordered rules necessitates that there's something more than the material realm, because the material realm itself can't give rise to higher order rules. Although I don't know what, if
To say that all the principles
I don't know what T-Jump would say to that.
of material, he would back away from strong materialism, but he wouldn't be able to say how his position isn't strong materialism, because frankly it is. Of course, nobody wants to take that position when it's extrapolated to its actual conclusion, because the assertion that everything is knowable empirically, which would appear to be the conclusion, this asinine set of axioms implies, that is itself a metaphysical assertion. It's self-refuting. So if you say we can't have any axioms, is that an axiom? Well, it's a de facto axiom. So that's a metaphysical inevitability, right? It's just a fact of language that even if you dodge conceptually in your thinking mind that something is inevitable, it's still inevitable in some sense. It just creeps up in a different form. It's quite tedious when metaphysical inevitabilities are denied, which is absolutely what's happening. And you get these laws of logic, which again are asserted not as metaphysical as whatever. They're asserted, I don't even know, like A equals A. It's like, how do you talk to someone who that's their principal founding idea and it means nothing? It's tautological. I'm basically a pretty depressed person at this point, so I don't want to talk about that for too much. Anyway, forgot to mention something about my week in review, which was that Dad mentioned us in his latest video. Yes. I actually got mentioned in his thing. I don't know if that's just the female privilege there, or if I actually helped him at all with my 2,500 word commentary thing that I sent him, but yeah. He's taken to doing a bunch of videos, and I still have no clue what he is really saying with a lot of it, so I'm hoping. But somebody actually left a comment on the video, and it seemed to be going in a direction of future study. I don't know. To be determined. Yeah, I just thought I'd drop that in there. But yeah, where do you want to take the conversation now?
I'm not sure. Maybe I don't have that much steam necessarily. Like that might be it. Like I'm kind of down on Week in Review. Like saying like we should be talking to people like this. That's what I wanted Week in Review for, is to like be a vehicle to like like talk to people, bring people on, advance ideas, and it's difficult to do, like you said, the current state of unfriendliness of the world. I tried, like, it was such a crap stream on Politically Provoked, talking about. I mentioned that, kind of like I'm a libertarian and I think the federal government's going to collapse, and I agree with Norvin about balkanization. This guy Jonah just like couldn't take it. Like I had to be stopped just because like I'm a libertarian. But then we were talking about God forbid the increase in the murder rate, and so I was trying to give a series of logical reasons of why I think society's breaking down and different factors, and it's really too difficult to have a good faith conversation, and even
That
just to give.
concept is too scary for most people to entertain, and you're just not mature enough. So you're going in there and be like, ha ha ha, and you're just basically trolling with the truth. And it's how the hell else did you expect them to react?
Debate Jam, and they debated Kyle Rittenhouse.
Okay.
Like those they're supposed to be covering topics like that.
All right. Well, there you go.
Like that was what they're talking about. It wasn't like random. They even had brought on the guy who I don't know what side he took in the Kyle Rittenhouse debate, but it's like your destiny. You're talking about immigration and demographic change right now, and we also tried talking about that, but it's people don't actually listen to the other person and give like a benefit of the doubt to try to understand what the other person is actually saying. And like consciousness, math, and science, like Week in Review would be a better show if we were, if Thad Roberts came on and tried his best to explain his idea, presented a few things, and we could have good faith conversations like that with interesting people. And it's really very few that's happening. So I mentioned, like Steven Pinker and Niall Ferguson and Sean Carroll and Anil Seth. But I mean, these people are getting paid a lot of money. They have friendly, somewhat good faith conversations. And even Steven Pinker and Niall Ferguson, to some extent, the biggest names in the legitimate academic world, heads of the departments at Harvard, can't even have a good faith conversation, but they'll get together and try because they're making a lot of money. They're getting paid. As I said, like most people, like Jennifer getting monetized or something like that. At the end of the day, most conversations like this are monetized, like the Science of Consciousness conference. There's a sponsor. There's people getting paid. These people have posts and positions at university. Hameroff heads a department. Brian Keating heads a department, and they have to write grants from funders, and they have staffs and obligations to codes of conducts, terms of service, and various things that they could somewhat have a good faith conversation, but it's within a systematized way that, to me and Jennifer, is largely corrupt. But it's saying like just because the system's corrupted, most of the stuff outside of the system is worthless. So I mean, there could be stuff outside of the system that's good, but within the system, it's basically all monetized and it's canonized in a certain way where people only do it if they get a check at the end of it, and they only get a check at the end of it if they do due diligence and canonize it in the way that so to say, the powers that be are willing to give them a check for, and so it's a difficult situation. And saying like, yeah, if Thad Roberts like has a book and he came on Week in Review and like we paid him $500, or he sold like a whole bunch of books, that's generally how things work. Like JF had a big enough program, without certain level that, like, yeah, authors come on because they have a book to sell, and they have family to feed and bills to pay. So Thad Roberts would come on, and it's like Charles Charles.
Is it
Moskowitz.
possible the show's just too intimidating?
Well, it's a value proposition. Intimidating could be, people would do intimidating for money. So like
The
UFC,
thing is that people don't.
people bash each
want
other's
to
head,
do
and they
that.
get paid at the they get a paycheck. You're saying just to do it for do it for nothing. No, I mean, it's like Charles Moskowitz, and where can you find you? How do we order your book, or politics and prose or something? Most of these places that have platforms like a theater or public speaking, you have to rent. It costs money. You have to rent a place. You have to have your staff, or whatever, and raise a little bit of money, and possibly pay speakers, pay travel fees, pay appearance fees, and then after set up a table where they're selling books. That's like when Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson debate. At the end of the day, they're both going to be signing books afterwards. So it's like, who won the debate? It's like, that's not what they're asking. They're asking, how many books did I sell after, from their perspective, because this is what they do for a living. This is how they pay their bills, and they have some what of an interest. And that's just how the canonized material system works, and the value proposition. So like, yeah, Thad Roberts probably would come on and take a critical review of people bashing, like trying to show dismantle his ideas, if he was getting paid, or if it was like a university type program where like a thesis defense or something like that. It's within the system where he's at the end of the day he's going to get a check. So we don't have that in terms of the value proposition. And so if it's like Ben Watkins is saying like, okay, it's going to be friendly because we're both researchers and like ideas, and want to have a friendly conversation because we're both interested and recognize that life is short. And he's done research in areas that I haven't, and I've done research in areas he hasn't, and we could put our minds together and have value proposition, mutual benefit from a conversation. Like me and Jennifer been doing this a few years now, versus like politically provoked or T-jump or modern day debates, more like pandering to my base. Saying, okay, like me and Jennifer already have our following, and now it's saying like, there's a reason why I'm monetized and have 1,000 subs, and I'll demonstrate that by going up against my opposition, in front of large amounts of people. But that's largely, pandering to my base, and then but it's value proposition, so to say, to my people. Saying there's a reason why people follow me, and that's because I could go toe to toe with the opposition and they can't. And rather than that I'm doing what they want to be done, and therefore they're following my activity, so to say, that the value propositions there for these unfriendly encounters, which is also part of it. And it's all, even selling books, at some point, like JF, the communism debate, it was kind of crap, but like they have to be out there, they have to keep their cred, and they have to make a living. Saying like, if you're a public personality, you have to have regular appearances, or you don't sell books, you don't get paid.
Fun. So you can see why value proposition is not really there.
I mean, to some extent, you say if the value proposition is there, the person will do it, and so that's kind of like a good Ben Shapiro type, like even Judaic money is karma understanding. Like you're saying, like if it's to your benefit, you'll do it whether you like me or not. Like if I like the capitalistic system, if I bid higher than the highest bidder, you're going to sell it to me whether you like me or not. And that's just how it goes. Like you put it out for sale, and you're going to sell it to the highest bidder. You're not going to and that's and so if you have books to sell, You might, give a few to your friends. You might, give a free speech at your synagogue or a few places, or tutor, some pretty girl or something like that. But like, no, I mean, that's why I told Luke Ford, actually, um, what's his name slipping me? The big Indian yoga guru from India that does hatha yoga seminars where like thousands of people pay like hundreds of dollars.
Hmm.
He came to University of Michigan and actually, for students, and I asked a question about that, like economics, and he said, straight up, he's like, yeah, if the devil offers you a good deal, you take it, and if God offers you a bad deal, you have to say no, because that's the nature of economics. If I have something to sell and a good person can't afford it, you don't sell it to him. And if a bad person could afford it, and I mentioned that to Luke Ford with, I think Luke Ford, kind of like a poor man's mentality. I think he agreed with me. Maybe that's when he stopped streaming. He had that video like pinned for like weeks, and I told him like, who would you rather give Alexander technique to? Someone you really like but doesn't take it seriously, or someone that you don't like who takes it seriously and pays? And at the end of the day, in business, you go with the person who takes it seriously and pays. And like I know, like a lot of time, I'm an unlikable person, like and that's because um, for various reasons, or I'm not the person that the people had in mind. But in university, you say, okay, he does good work. I'm going to go with Doovid because he got the job done. Like I don't like Doovid. I like this other person, but this other person failed and couldn't get the job done. Doovid got the job done. I'm going with Doovid, and that's the nature of generally capitalism. It's designed to be that way, and that's the nature of the value proposition. It's like the Ben Shapiro Judea money is karma attitude. Like if it's in your interest, you're going to do it. Like it doesn't matter what you think. Like if it's in your interest, like free will, you don't have free will. Like if I design something in your interest, you're going to do it.
Hmm.
Like Anna Kasparian
Okay.
on debating Ben Shapiro. He set it up. She's his opposition, but he's the one who invited her and set it up. Is like she'll come, she'll be there. Does she like? No, she like she's opposition, but she'll be there. She'll come. It's in her best interest. Doesn't matter. And there's a certain nature saying like you don't have free will in the matter. If I design something to be in your best interest, you're going to do it.
All right. So you're saying that even though Kasparian is basically going to lose versus Shapiro, that because it's in her
It's not
best
a win
interest to
lose.
get the exposure, she's going to take the dive just for the sake of sportsmanship. Is that what you're saying? You're saying
It's not about win or lose. Like you're looking like it's a debate about win or losing. Saying like Ben Shapiro.
I just try to make sure I'm following you because you're saying me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You're saying you. I'm not sure if you're talking about me or just the proverbial you. I guess I lost the thread of what you were saying. Apologies.
Ben Shapiro, I guess, was invited to be a speaker at some Chamber of Commerce event, and so he said, "Let's do a debate on like capitalism," and said, "Who should the opponent be?" And he picked Anna Kasparian. At the beginning of the video, he mentions how it was him who set it up, and even though like she's railing on him, and then Young Turks, like they're blasting him and saying how she destroyed him, and saying like to him it wasn't about winning or losing. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I mean he wanted to make a good event and wanted to make his money, make his paycheck, do what he does. And so like of course she showed up. She got like it's like Brittany sent me the link and I showed up. Say what? Doovid's not going to show up. They're going to send me the link to politically provoked, and I'm going to say no. So so if you're making an event and you invite a speaker and pay the fee, like of course they're going to show up. I mean, it depends on you have to understand the value proposition in a way to recognize that. But you're saying like it's not about winning or losing; it's about the value proposition. And to other, to the viewers, like, oh, who won, who lost, it doesn't matter. You're saying it's like basketball. The fans look at the Super Bowl, who won, because they're watching. But the organizers, it doesn't matter who wins or who lose. they're making an event, they're doing the advertisement, they have their promotional reasons why they're doing it, and from the promotional aspect, it doesn't matter who wins and who loses. It's kind of like politics in the two-party system. It doesn't matter who wins and who loses. It matters that I control, that that I'm running the system. Like I'm selling tickets to both sides, even like weapons in war or violence. Like who won the war? It's like I don't care. I'm selling weapons to both sides. But however you understand that, I mentioned Ben Shapiro because he's the Orthodox Jew. That's somewhat the Judaic system I've mentioned as money is karma, and that's why I say like, yeah, Thad Roberts um, would probably come on any show if he was selling books because he's probably got a family to support and needs some money. If someone paid him and it sold books and he got in front of an audience, even if it was somewhat negative and weird, but he gets paid and he sells some books, he's going to do it.
Okay.
And you say like, no, I wouldn't do it. But it's like, no, you don't have free will. You would do it. If I designed something that was in your best interest to do, you would do it.
Sure.
I mean, by definition, right?
That's just very.
I mean, from a free will
vague.
definitional point, if it's in your best interest to do it, you don't have a choice in the matter. You're going to do it.
That presupposes people are always acting in their own best interest.
I mean, like The
Doesn't
Godfather.
that seem to be not true?
Let me make you an offer you can't refuse.
Sure.
So I think that's The Godfather. I don't know where that line, but you've heard that one. Like, let me make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah, it's kind of the cliche gangster quote from TV.
But I mean, not necessarily like because like, God forbid, you don't want to be like killed or tortured or something by saying no to The Godfather. You're talking about, like you want to make money, right? You want to get in front of an audience, not talking about like mafia or something, but I think that line, like make you offer you can't refuse, you're saying like, yeah, if it's in your interest, you can't refuse the offer. You don't have free will in the matter. Like if you design it, and that's part of Hollywood, saying like possibly so the Judaic understanding of karma, that you could make a person not like a Godfather.
So you're
type
saying
way.
that link was an offer you couldn't refuse then?
Probably not. Like, saying like, no, I probably didn't have free will. Like I got the link, I probably couldn't have refused it. Just like I think Luke Ford sent a link to Borzai or something. He's like, I hate you. Why did I come on your show? But he got the link and he's there. Because if it's in your best interest, you have a choice in the matter. And so if you want to exposure,
isn't it more that if it's going to fuel your vanity, you're going to do it?
What's in your best interest? If it's
It's
the
to fuel your
Godfather
vanity,
saying,
then.
if it's the Godfather saying, let me make you an offer. I give an example, a story I heard from Rabbi Gemedza, this African prince from Swaziland who converted to Orthodox Judaism, and he was in Jerusalem, and the chief Sephardi rabbi at the time, Avadia Yosef, guys found him on the street, and he said, the rabbi wants to see you. And like, who? Like Rabbi Yosef. Yeah, he wants to see me. He's like, when? What? He's like, now, get in the car. Kind of like The Godfather. It's like, like, the rabbi wants to see you. Like, now, get in. And so like, you're in that situation. Like, what do? You get in. And the rabbi was nice to him. He wanted to be nice to him. But if it was that situation where there's the chief rabbi of Israel and their guys show up and say like, the rabbi wants to see you, get in. Like you can't say no. But that kind of like in the Godfather type way, versus if it's like Ben Shapiro saying saying like Anna Kasparian's like, I hate Ben Shapiro, like he's horrible, he represents everything that I hate. But when he offered her a platform in some event, like she said yes.
Right. Very interesting. So yeah, I wonder how that's going to go. Has that happened yet, or?
When you put in free will, like, okay, so when the rabbi in Jerusalem, like, I mean, like, like where rabbis have a lot more power, saying their guys, find you on the street, and like the rabbi wants to see you, it's like, when? Now, get in. Do you really have free will? So like technically, like, oh, like I gotta go, like, they're saying what would have happened? Would they have kidnapped him or something? Like, maybe he had free will to say no, but you're saying like, no, basically, he didn't have free will. Like at that point, he didn't even, like they probably had the arm around him. They were ushering him into the car, like whatever, like type, like you weren't going to say no. Like they made you offer you can't refuse. Versus if it was money or fame. Saying like the Jimmy Fallon show or something like that, and watch or whatever. If it was what Sam Harris or something like I hate Sam Harris, but like Sam Harris, like get the link. Sam Harris wants to have you on. You're saying like I don't have free will. Of course I'm going to say yes. There's no way any of these names that say that
I got asked to go on Dr. Phil and I refused. So
who?
there you go.
I mean, when your yoga thing was big, Dr. Phil, the
Nope.
daytime talk show thing.
Yeah, and no, it didn't have anything to do with that. And I don't want to talk about what it was about, but yeah, definitely. So I guess some people can make different decisions, but yeah, I mean, free will, whether that's a thing, it's different.
See what exactly, so it's like, okay, like T Jump, Jennifer said I should come on T Jump's server. Saying like, no, like it's an ambush, it's a setup. Like I'm just going to come on.
Well, of course it's an ambush, but then there's a counter ambush, and it's like I can take you all on at once. I wanted to it. I can't find anywhere else. Modern Day Debate won't let me take on a panel. Haven't we talked about this?
Well, yeah, I'm saying if T Jump himself reached out to me and you invited me, I probably would say yes. Like you're saying, it make me offer I can't refuse. I would, I'd be like, like I don't like T Jump, saying, but like it's like T Jump, like I get the message. You'd be like, come on, I want to talk to you. Like I'd probably say yes. Like just Jennifer saying I should come on his server and debate. It's like Claire or something. Like okay, so Claire doesn't have the value proposition to make me an offer I can't refuse. So Claire's like, you want to come do a show? And you say, you're like, no. But so because the value proposition is not there, and that's why I meant the Socratic method about the power asymmetry. So there's a power asymmetry, and so when the chief rabbi of Israel in Israel, guys come and say the rabbi wants to see you, like now, get in. You're looking at like what's going to happen if I say no, and next thing you know, and you're in the car. But that's the chief rabbi of Israel. If it's just the rabbi of the local synagogue, the rabbi wants to see you. He's like, nah, I don't want to talk to you. But it depends. Like, yeah, if the rabbi of my local synagogue called me, said he wants to talk to me, like I probably, I couldn't say no, like, because there's a power asymmetry. Just like the police, police called, or like the police are here, saying, well, you got a warrant. Can we search your house? Like, no, you can't search my house. You got a warrant or something like that. But you might be saying that it's the factual element of the power asymmetry that like you're not in a position to make the person offer that they can't refuse. But if you were, then you could make them an offer that they couldn't refuse, literally. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like The Godfather, where it's some sort of fear. It could be a positive type thing, where it's like like I know exactly how much money you make. I know how much money you have in the bank. I know what you do. I know how hard you work for your money. And I'm offering you, like 2 weeks work. I know exactly how hard you have to work to make that kind of money. And like, you're not going to say no. I have zero doubt you're going to say no. Making you an offer you can't refuse. Or, like numbers, like, like we're talking to 14 people, politically provoked, got 100 people audience. Like there's no way this Doovid guy is going to turn.
No, that's only one order of magnitude difference.
I mean, but it's a big power asymmetry. You're saying it's a whole magnitude. It's not even double. You're talking a whole magnitude exponentially, bigger. But saying like like this, the little pitsy, Doovid and Jennifer week in review. There's no way they're going to turn down my invite to come on my show. Like audience in size, magnitude bigger. We got super chats, coming in, and stuff like that. And so about the Socratic method, no one wants to go through the Socratic method, but if the power asymmetry is there, and so it's like someone who has the power of the state behind him, like the chief rabbi of Israel, the police on like a negative way, where the police start questioning you, you're gonna the police want to put you through a Socratic method, you're gonna be like, no thanks. Like you'd be call your lawyer or something, but you say no, I mean, the police or the state want to put you through the Socratic method, you probably don't have a choice, you got to go through it, let alone if it's in your interest, like T-Jump wants to have you on. And of course T-Jump's going to put me through the Socratic method and try to ridicule and expose me as a fraud, but he has an audience in exponentially in magnitude bigger than our audience. So even though he would Socrate me and try to ridicule and expose me because the power asymmetry is real, I would probably say yes, and it wouldn't even be a matter of free will. Like, if T Jump, was in the chat right now and he's like, "Is that really T Jump? T Jump's in the chat." He said, "I want to have you on." He was like, "No, I mean, there's power asymmetry is real."
What are you
And
talking about? You're saying hypothetically if he was in the chat right now, is that right?
yeah, I'm saying he's not in there, but I'm saying
Okay.
if like
What?
in the chat all of a
Oh,
sudden it was like T Jump, you're like, no, that's the real T Jump, and he's in the chat right now. And he wants to have you on. He was saying that it would be an offer I couldn't refuse because the power asymmetry is real. Oh, I meant that Kirk Doodle looks like he's back. He's been back a few months, making daily videos, and so I mean, Kirk Doodle at this point is hardly bigger than us. Maybe a little bit bigger than us. Um, but saying so if Kirk Doolittle was, like he at this point he probably couldn't make us an offer we couldn't refuse. But modern day debate, T Jump, politically provoked, Destiny, some they Vouch, or whatever, the Ben Shapiro, Young Turk, Sam Harris, Sean Carroll, like the power asymmetry is real and free will is limited, and you're saying like, yes, they could make an offer we couldn't refuse.
all right.
And you're saying, no, I have free will, I could refuse those offer, like I refused Dr. Phil's offer.
That's
but
right, I did.
but I mean, maybe it wasn't set up in that way, like of the value proposition, or whether they would have had to like fly you into like New York or something to do an interview, or they would have sent a crew out to to like Canada to talk to you, or it was like JF got interviewed by the media, and like he traveled hours to to, even though he knew they were going to do a hit piece on him, but the official Canadian news reached out to him and wanted to interview him, and they're like, you got to drive hundreds of miles to see them, even though they were going to do a hit piece on him. He still did it because it was like mainstream news. Like, of course he's going to show up with an interview.
Maybe, Doovid, I saw this conversation coming and I said no, just so that I could one-up you in it. All that time back when I was offered to go on Dr. Phil, has that occurred to you?
Well, you have to give more details to saying, like, you're saying if you're claiming you had free will in the matter and you made a choice.
I'm also claiming prescience in this case.
Or you're saying that the value proposition of
was to fucking win this mini debate digression-y thing in the middle of the 124th. I know it says 119. That's because my encoder screwed up. What the? Imagine that. I'm not saying it's true, but that would be funny, wouldn't it?
You got programmability is asking all these personal questions. It's like, no, the value proposition is not there for me to answer a whole bunch of personal questions. Some of the chat I don't know, and God forbid. And even it's like, okay, like being on Dr. Phil, it's not a good thing; it's a bad thing.
That's just because I don't give a shit about fame, and that's why it's hard for me to even talk about it at all.
Well, if it's fame,
but I'm not going to complain about it. I'm very happy.
There is a concept of offer you can't refuse, and saying if the value proposition of fame isn't there, but it's saying like, no, I'm gonna if I design something that's in your best interest, you'll do it. And it's like, so if fame isn't your thing, that's not going to be the offer that you can't refuse. And saying like you were saying, if it's like the CIA in America, you're doing like a security check to get like they start interviewing like your people you went to school with in elementary school, like your mother or sister, like you get a call from your mom and your sisters, like these government officials came and talked to me the other day, saying like there is a concept of offer you can't refuse, or it's like like The Godfather or something. Like, I don't know what's going to happen if I say no. Dr. Philly is like, okay, like what's going to happen if you say no? And maybe it's not a good thing. And then say, okay, like name your price. If it's money, generally say everybody has a price in money. So, if it's just like, okay, $1,000, no, $10,000, maybe, 20,000. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Like $1 million. Definitely. No way she's going to say no to $1 million. Zero chance. Whatever it is, saying like, God forbid, I mentioned, kind of like Jeffrey Epstein, but even extreme wealth. And, like I keep on telling Jennifer, the laws of economics are real, and people with large sums of money could do these demonstrations. But it's like everyone has their price. Like you're not a billionaire. You don't have enough money to do these experiments, but some people have the money and they did these experiments. And yes, everyone has their price. Jennifer has their price. Is there some random billionaire that's going to write a big check just to prove that Jennifer has her price? It may be not worth conducting that experiment, but if you have the money, you're saying like, yeah, of course you have your price. There's no way Jennifer's going to say no to $1 million. Zero chance. And why someone would test that just to test that. But to some extent, like, yeah, I worked in financial fields. And I was in New York City. People who had larger sums of money, and it's a given. Everyone has their price. And so you might not think you have your price, but you do. And like if you're tested, you're saying like, yes, you do have your price. You will do it. I don't have any doubt in my mind.
Sure. Total sellout.
No, it's not a seller thing. It's a fact of economics.
Sure.
I would say that's a theory of economics. You're saying you might not realize that that's a fact. It's a law of economics. And it may not pay for someone to test to prove it, just to prove that you have a price to demonstrate it. But it happens all the time. And, kind of like Squid Games or something like that. Trading Places. Like when I was young, I liked the movie Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. I think you saw that movie, right?
I don't really think I did.
Now, I mean, it's like frame games. No one heard of frame games, but two wealthy people that brothers that make a bet that they could take like a black homeless guy from the street and this Eddie Murphy and trade his place with Dan Aykroyd, who has the most elite training and is running their company, and given the training or the circumstance that Eddie Murphy would be able to do the same thing, and that if you took away everything that Dan Aykroyd the character had and took away his money, gave him criminal record, this and this, he would also resort to crime as some sort of psychological experiment versus like the dystopia of Squid Game. Like yes, you would kill your friend, God forbid. Um, and so like Squid Game's pretty dystopian, but like Squid Game at the end of the day, like yes, these two childhood friends, this guy does kill his own friend or try to kill his own friend. And it is really just some sort of experiment by sadistic wealthy people, at least the way the Squid Game makes the movie, that so the people are just betting or testing, and to say how much money do you think it'd take for you to kill your childhood friend, God forbid? How much money would it take for this person to cheat on her husband, God forbid? And if it's just a sadistic game in a dystopian movie that people are playing just to prove a point. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the theme behind these popular
Let's make
movies.
the world worse so we can feel better about being immoral. Good plan.
Well, no, I'm saying it's a scientific experiment to prove the laws of economics, that everybody has a price.
Well, I think that the word would be demonstrate a principle.
It was like a materialist. There is no such thing as a good person. You might think you're
How
a good
how does
person.
materialism imply there's no such thing as a good person?
That's a karmatic world. People do what's in their best interest, and that like no, there is no such thing as altruism. You would stab your back. Anybody, any person, given person, would stab their back with their friends and family for their own personal interest. It's a fact of science that could easily be demonstrated. You might need to be in a position of power to be able to demonstrate it, but it's a fact. It's an undeniable fact that your average person rejects. But should they be tested? The Talmud kind of says, like, yeah, like if I were tortured, I would curse God. Like I would never curse God, but if I were tortured, I would probably curse God. God forbid. And if it's for benefit, you're saying that, like, yes, like any given man, given chance to have their sexual fantasies fulfilled with the woman of their dreams, would. There's no way that they would say no. 0% chance. And what sadistic person would set that experiment up? I was watching, God forbid, the latest like Q Saw movie. Like, saying like society's like the entertainment's really messed up. Like Squid Game, Saw, it was just dystopian, violent, horrible stuff. But that's largely the theme behind these popular culture movies, is this demonstration that yes, people are naturally corrupt and would betray their highest ideals should the circumstance call for it. And so you could say no, you wouldn't, but that's why it's an interesting movie. So Squid Game, it's like, okay, this guy didn't, though. The hero of Squid Games, even though of 456 people in Squid Games, there's one guy who doesn't betray his values. Everyone else did, but one guy was able to remain pure and not betray their values. And so, like, a lot of movies have that element to say, like, yes, like almost all people would betray their values if the circumstances arose, but there is altruism. It's extremely rare. It's extremely unlikely. But in some cases, like the good guy wins and doesn't betray his values. You could have a pure dystopian where everybody betrays their values. Most movies kind of have like this, like, generally the vast majority of people would betray their values, but conceivably like 1 out of 1,000.
I think the more compelling stories are the redemption arcs where someone's like, kind of ambiguous and they become better. That's sort of, to me, a compelling story.
Well, they have to be tested in a way where the story has whatever reason, some scenario where the person's tested, where the expectations are huge that they're going to betray their values. And so in order to, the viewer, so if you're writing a story like an author, or you're making a movie, and so you have to portray it interesting to your reader, so you have to have your protagonist that passes the test, takes the hero's journey, but the hero's journey is interesting because you demonstrate that all the people who failed along the line. So Squid Game, if there's 456 contestants and 455 of them fail, so the protagonist is the hero, but he's only the hero because so many other people failed where he succeeded. That's why he's the protagonist of the story.
Yeah. Kazakh just said that I should set up a debate between you and Tej. What do you think about
It sounded
that?
like what you were trying to do, but like you don't want to like force me, just like like unleash me on his server. Like I'm not going to come.
Yeah, I'd have to be holding you back from him. That's for sure. I'd have to be a hard limit on any type of Battlefield posting for something like that.
No, I don't think. I doubt. I doubt that me and T-Jump would be reduced to Battlefield Jump. Maybe if he just like called me out, like,
I would also
illogical. You don't even know how to think. That would say like, you wouldn't say that to my face. And it's like, yes, I would. You're completely illogical and don't know how to think. Like, you only believe what you believe because you're a moron. And it's saying like, you want to take this outside? I think that's how the conversation would go. But that's why I wouldn't show up. That's why I wouldn't show up. There's a home court advantage. So like, if I, I'm not gonna.
If I'm moderating though, who has the home court advantage?
I'm not gonna crash his server, so I could get on his server and say like, I'm right. And he's like, no,
that makes fun of us.
And saying a home court advantage. It's saying like, you can't. You have to. There is like, I'm not gonna. I probably lose if I Battlefield post on his home court advantage, I would lose.
Everybody loses when you do that because it derails the whole, sense of the dang convo.
No, I mean, there's castle doctrine, saying like, no, I mean, if T Jump came on my turf, I would probably win. Just like if I had a conversation on Theology Unleashed or something like that, it might favor me more, versus like if it was on my channel or if it was on a Jewish channel, like if it was T Jump came on, I don't know, like Luke Ford or Charles Moskowitz or something, probably be rigged in my favor. Like what a modern day debate or his thing, the home court advantage makes a difference.
Sure, yeah. I'm sure it does for some people. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying for everybody.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm saying legally, saying, okay, like Battlefield, like someone breaks into my house, it's probably going to cost them their life. It doesn't matter who they are. But like if I break into someone else's house, it's probably going to cost me my life. Because there's the castle doctrine. Saying someone breaks into my house, it costs them their life. I'm not going to prison. I'm going to sign a piece of paper, and the police are like, I don't know, the person was dumb. I don't know why they broke into your house. It's a shame that it cost them their life, but that's how it works. But if I broke into someone else's house, God forbid, and it cost me my life, that person would be able to sign a piece of paper and just, hey, the idiot broke into my house. What did you expect?
I forgot about a debate that happened this week. I don't know if you caught it, but it's Big Bang with Leo Filius on a Christian channel that I forget what it was, but I'm looking it up right now. I guess you didn't see that one.
No.
It was basically taking the same position he took with me. Didn't seem to go so well, and then the audience really seemed. That seems one like evolution. People are just, oh yeah, we got to talk about evolution too. But like, people are just really stuck on evolution. But Big Bang, people don't really seem wedded to that one way or the other. I'll try to pull it up here. It was pretty recent, so you didn't even hear about this, I guess. Oh, it looks like Bubbles saw it.
No, I mean, I didn't check Amy Newman's channel. I sometimes check Amy Newman's channel, so it was like on Amy Newman, I might have seen it, or if it, the algorithm that I'm definitely not searching him, but but if it came up in the algorithm and I saw it on YouTube, I'd probably click on it. But like, no, I didn't hear about it. I didn't see it. No one shared it to me.
I thought about it, but then I had a feeling you were going to be like, oh, God forbid, what is this trash? Why are you wasting my... You're shitting up and sliding my DMs with this trash. I was like, okay, I just won't send it. I did think about it if it's any
I don't
consequence.
think I ever say that. I mean, I'm just not comment. But
I know, I just thought you would say it, so I just didn't. That's where my head was at, just explain. I know, but I still...
I don't think I've ever said that. I mean, God forbid. I mean, I got Claire sending me like link. I told you, like Claire sending me like links every day. Like I got emails now. I get emails and links on Facebook from Claire. I got Half Galician. I got random people. Like I usually I don't complain to people sending me links.
Is that a yes for the next time I see a debate that has somebody in it who is a...
You don't have to send me links that I'm not going to look at.
Well, I guess this would be something I don't think
that's why I
you would
thought
like
we
this.
can review. I don't have anything negative to say against Theophilus. Like, I mean, it even disturbs me. Like, no, I mean, I don't know why. What advantage you have to saying bad things about him?
I didn't say anything bad about him. It was Kent Hovind I was referencing.
I mean, that's what you're saying, like Norvin. Like when Norvin came on saying, I don't pick on people because they're different. Like and even Norvin comes back to say, like Doooovid was relatively nice to him. Like, no, I don't have negative energy like that, and it bothers me that you do. Like, no, like I don't have any, I think it was in training day. Like I mean, I don't have a punching bag, but it's like I have a punching bag. I don't need to hit on. I don't need to punch. I don't need to beat on people for no reason.
I don't know who you think I'm beating up on here, but moving on.
Maybe it's like a clown or like negative. It's just some negative karma for no reason.
Don't know what you're talking about. Just trying to see if there's any questions in the chat. It seemed to be moving a little bit faster. Okay, so I guess we can wrap up if there's nothing else to go into. Yeah, I thought, the reason I wanted to bring up this debate was that Leophilius denied particles. So I thought that was interesting. Or denied that they were like an absolute reality kind of thing. Thought that was pretty telling. But maybe that's just the whole vibe of that approach is you kind of fold at that final stage of asserting anything for certain or sure about that. Well, there's always like a probability or something. I'm still not sure if it's a rhetorical thing or what, because there do seem to be some absolutes people will cling to, but I guess the future will tell. Oh, now the audience doesn't want us to stop yet. Yeah, well, we don't have any guests, and Doovid's getting cantankerous, and
if you're gonna have negative energy or karma, it's probably just better to have shorter shows. It's like focus on research. If we have personalities, otherwise probably just better have shorter shows. I mean, there's no reason to have like hours and hours shows, especially if there's no guests or no good conversation.
Bubbles says he'll come on.
And more like week in review, like you're saying, it's week in review.
Are you interested in sending Bubbles the link, Doovid?
I don't mind if it's something, but I'm saying it's like, you could do chill streaming. As we keep on encouraging you to stream more on your own. Not to turn week in review into like the only stream that you do. Like do these streams on your own.
Look,
but
I've explained this so many times. It's like I don't know how many times I can. How many different ways I can say the same thing.
People have nothing to review. It's not meant for week in review. I don't mind chill streams or something. Like you just want to I'm not just talking for talking. Thing like people have research to share or going over. Something that's worthwhile to go over. Definitely down. But I'm not kind of talking just to talk. I'm not opposed to it. Like Norvin, like I used him for my purposes, and then I moved on. I didn't look so now he's a big streamer. He's bigger than me. But no, it doesn't bother me. Jennifer can do what she wants. Like if she has success, I'm happy for her. Encouraging her to do more.
Thank you. I appreciate that you support it. I don't know what I'm supposed to stream about. Exactly.
What do you mean? You don't have to. If you have nothing to stream for.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not streaming. Just like when I stream, I'm not going to become. I can't see myself becoming like Claire, who's just like goes live. I don't even know what the point of those streams is. It's beyond my capacity to understand because it's like. And somehow there's like less secular Quranists every year.
That makes sense. I mean, saying the value proposition for her is there. Okay, maybe she's single. You have a husband. You have things that you're doing. It was like Luke Ford or something, or it could just be a different personality type. That you're introvert. Whatever reason, you're not her. The fact that she likes doing it and you don't like doing it, it's not surprising. It doesn't mean. It's not a good or bad thing.
I do like doing it. I don't know. Just don't know what to talk about. And I feel like solo streaming is just. I don't have anything to really say often in a solo stream. I don't know how to explain it anyway. I am going to try to send this link to Bubble. Do you have Bubblegum's email by any chance? Just so there's less of a chance my computer turns into a potato again?
On anyone's email.
Okay.
Do you want to come on? Do you have something you want to talk about? I don't mind. I'm saying I could. Maybe we should just wrap up.
Sure.
And I think it's been irritating. I think it's largely because we've been going on, and then.
Well, you say that I don't know what I'm talking about. You don't care about my theory, and you don't want to hear about my theory. So it's like, okay.
Well, I listened to your theory, but I mean, you're done. You're done. You're not talking about your theory anymore. So
Because you've discouraged me from doing it. Because it's like, what's the point? I'll just tell somebody else about it. If you don't want to hear about it, I'm not like I don't know. I'm not the impose my will on other people type.
did I ever tell you not to talk about your theory? I mean, I'm encouraging you to stream. I'm the one who's telling you to make videos. Like, I would probably, if you made videos explaining your theory, but
It would be a video saying, "Here's why I can't explain."
I don't learn from conversational stuff. Like, I mean, that's your style, but like, no, I don't really, like, I don't, like, the only conversational stuff I usually watch are from, big names. I said, like, like Steven Pinker and Niall Ferguson. Like, these are heads of institutes, and occasionally watch these conversational stuff because they're big names in conversation. But like, no, I mean, generally I watch PowerPoint presentation. Like, I shared the links of the type stuff I watch. I watched probably 50 hours this week. Like in 2-speed of stuff on consciousness, on stuff on presentations. That's my style. So like, I'm not against you doing your thing. Like, I've never discouraged you from doing your thing. I said it doesn't interest me. The value proposition is not there for me. Doesn't mean it's not there for other people.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to know how to carry your show because originally, to me, the point of the show was to talk about my theories and obviously review the week.
Yeah,
and how much my theories were making a difference.
Okay, I'm gonna say we're done. Like, if you've done it, we're done. Like, the weeks you talked about what you did this week, and we're done. And so that's fine. Like, I mean, it's not like week in review is supposed to be like a 5-hour show. Like, 2 hours, 1 hour. Most shows are like an hour or two. And if they are longer, it's because there's guests or there's people. There's more to talk about. Like,
I guess I don't really get into it for like the first few hours. I don't know. I seem to like gather more steam for these things after hours and hours and hours of doing it. There you go. Well, whatever. I sent the link to Bubbles, so if he wants to come on and continue this, that's possible to do. It sounds like we're good, and we'll to pick back up next week, and I'll try to have more of. I didn't really get a chance to write good notes for the show this week because I was trying to finish my blog post, but I should have realized earlier that I wouldn't finish it. So that's on me. Hey, Bubbles. So yeah, I mean, Doov, if you want a piece or if you want to have say any last words, but really thanks for a lot for what you put together for the show today. It was awesome.
Okay, yeah, I guess the Bubbles doesn't have anything to say to me. I'll just sign off. And
I don't know, Bubbles. Did you want to say anything to do? Hello?
Oh, wait, can you hear me?
Sure thing.
All right. No, I didn't have any particular. I just came in. I wasn't not sure what David said prior.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind people being friendly or having conversation. I'm just kind of, like a work driver. Like you're saying, if you didn't produce content, you're not reviewing something. You didn't like advance some more research this week to discuss. It's fine. But I mean, I don't mind. You could continue and just talk. That's fine.
Have a great night. Talk to you real soon. Look forward to the next one. Bye.
All right, later, David.
Sup, Bubbles?
Hey, what's happening? So, you caught that debate with Leo and Kent?
Parts of it.
Okay. Yeah, there was an after show on the Amy, and I was debating Leo on the after show.
The after show or the after show?
The one on Amy's channel.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was debating Leo there. And well, prior to that, I was talking with Amy, and I was trying to explain to her the concept of the ether. And then I was debating Leo, trying to prove the ether. But I think my mistake was there not telling Leo what the ether was, because Amy knew what the ether was. Yeah. So that was a little bit surprising that she knew this this concept. Leo didn't know it. I think there was one mistake I made there, not explaining to him what it was. But it's been
mischaracterized, and people think that the Michelson-Morley experiment disproves it. So it's It's a bit like setting up a straw man to be like,
Yeah.
well, this misconstruction of the concept is false. It's like, well, of course.
Yeah. Oh,
Misconstruction.
anyways, I still got Leo to admit to it though. It was funny. It was like it wasn't a lot, but he basically admitted that the soul particles are not the fundamental things, and what is fundamental is this field.
Oh, quantum fields? Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
What is it? Nice dodge. It's like that's wrong too because fields are spatial and reality, the fundamental level of reality, is pre-spatial.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's been the consensus for the majority of human history until the last, not long.
Yeah, it's weird why people have changed over to those sort of Cartesian models. So what were you guys talking about before I came in? I barely got here.
Just whatever was happening this week.
Okay.
So what have you been up to?
Okay, I just did. Well, it was my brother's birthday today, so I didn't do much. We were just debating God, like me and my brother. We're both like politically right wing. We have a lot of same kind of values, but he's like more towards the conservative end, and I'm more toward like I can swing both ways. I can go either like monarchist or anarchist, so I'm fine with either one. So it's always hard for him to pin me down on debates. And we always have these like fun debates. It doesn't get aggressive. It's always fun. We do it every time.
And
Oh,
does it go anywhere?
well, we were debating. I think we were debating evolution. It's not like same old. It pretty much just again, it just boils down to that single argument that mutations are deleterious. And as soon as you understand that, there's no more debate.
Oh, that's not true, though.
How so?
Domain-specific adaptations are evolutions, quote unquote, and what they call evolutions, what I call de-evolutions. Those happen. You can lose you lose genetic information as you adapt to the environment.
Yeah, you can devolve, but that's not the gaining of information, and that's a big problem they can't face. The gaining of information.
Well, look at the 500 comments on my evolution debate with Mark.
Oh, I watched it on.
Still not open to the possibility that he's wrong.
Oh, yeah, I talked to him. He gave me the same kind of like those answers. I find them weaselly. It's like, well, devolution is evolution. Like, no, it's not. I'm being very specific here. And then like they like sure there is adaptation, and then like what kind of adaptation are we talking about? This behavioral, biological, and then when we go to the biological adaptation, there's either evolution or devolution, and he tries to like blend the two, and trying to sneak one under the other.
I don't think they realize that's what they're doing, though. So we should be compassionate towards people who don't really even have any inkling as to what the reasoning process is like. You got to admit it's nothing like it.
I guess they could not understand it, but like I go out of my way to make it as simple as possible. Like
you're presupposing that you can reason with them. They believe things that are not correct about the reasoning process, which means you can't reason with them. You can't even reason with them through their own axioms because their own axioms are unreasonable.
Yeah, I do try to get in their mind and try to see how they're thinking, so I can get them out of that thinking. And it's like it's hard to kind of dumb myself down and try to make coherence out of it.
Well, as long as somebody thinks that you're the one who is the dolt and the clueless one, they're not going to be open to what you say. So most of it is just establishing credibility rather than actually making arguments.
Yeah, it has become about discredit rather than the substance.
Well, there's a question of an unstated question of authority, right? Which these debates sort of skirt around.
Yeah, like as soon as you pin them down, they'll turn to like peer review or like my scientist says this.
It's like
It's their version of the priest. Like my priest says you can't do this because the priest says it's true when you're wrong.
the precept priests.
Yeah.
Sounds like a really shitty, like Christian metal band or something. Anyway,
There's this guy who does like metal covers of Christian prayers. And they sound pretty metal. I'm not sure I'm not sure who's that priest or a preacher that looks like Satan. He looks like the devil.
the one who started the Church of Satanism.
I know he's a Christian, but he's a Christian preacher. I think he runs like the biggest Christian evangelical church, but he looks like the devil. Like if the devil was wearing like a human skin, that's how he would look like.
Probably just a botched facelift on a super old guy, but okay. I think I have an image of who you're referring to. Yeah, it's a $1 trillion industry in the States. Religion.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up his name right now.
It's kind of mind-boggling. Never really felt like Canada was much like that.
Oh, Kenneth Copeland.
Kenneth Copeland. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he's like one of the biggest. Look at an image of him and look at his eyes. They're like dilated, like some sort of possessed human being or some creature. Like there's some demon under there.
It's just a botched facelift, man. You gotta chill out.
I don't know,
Okay.
man.
When you mix reasonable stuff with demons, it's like, no, that's the plot of Men in Black. That's not real.
Yeah, but you know, he just looks. I just find that hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems like kind of Hegelian dialectic to even use the term demonic.
Yeah, you know, close enough. What? Just for the shock factor. So, what have you been up to?
Trying to figure out some axioms for problem solving and
What
making
problem?
a few blog posts.
What problem are you trying to solve?
I'm trying to give a set of axioms that could solve any problem within a materialistic domain, obviously. So it would be like what one class of problems.
Okay, so it's not like a theory of everything for problems.
There's no such thing as a theory of everything. Like I could sort of prove why that wouldn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because like axioms are circular. Like everything's circular within axioms, and there's more out there than one set of axioms can encompass. So what does that mean? Like it's sort of it's the spirit of Gödel, but I mean I don't want to cite Gödel because it's not a good metaphor for reality, but it's sort of the idea that there are unknowable things, and it's the things that are just outside of, not things that contradict the axioms, because the good axioms, none of them are truly going to contradict each other. They're just different directions, phases, whatever you want to call them, like different orientations of truth or reality. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to find an image right now that I think describes it really well, but as usual, I can't find it. But it's like, I would recommend you just don't try to explain concepts that you really don't have a good grip on, because you're just going to end up confusing people. And don't mix it in with stuff you can't substantiate, because then your own testimony is not going to be worth anything.
Well, I mean, it's like, it's not that I don't understand. It's like it's hard of finding an analogy that they can't wiggle themselves out of.
You really think you could imprint on them an analogy sufficiently powerful as to change their orientation of belief? Like, that's a bit. Do you have a
It's-
precedent for that? Like, it's a bit
I get-
big of an assertion.
I guess it's more of an analogy for the audience, for them to acknowledge, like, if they go against this analogy, how silly that would look.
Well, analogies going against them never really looks that silly. It's more, it looks silly to go against a series of reasonable deductions. And you can see someone like Claire Caw, who even has like a sort of slippery, snake-like way of trying to engineer consent by asking a bunch of uncontroversial questions where it's almost like warming you up to say yes. It's like full-on clown posting at the end of the interrogation, as it were. But I don't know if you can see what's on the screen right now.
Yeah, I'm flipping back and forth between like the tabs so I can mute myself.
So you can see the different wavelengths of the vibrating string.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, you'd need another vibrating string. Like you'd need the top one where there's, well, actually, I guess this one works fine because you can just say that the one with 2 is 1 lambda. So the very first one at the top is 1 wavelength because it's the amount to repeat itself. So anyway, it goes up and increases the number of nodes, and basically reality is like the superposition of all these things, but we can't see the superposition all at once. And we can see something that's sort of coherent with one level at a time of these different things. You can kind of see one row of this at a time, or maybe like a, you know what a fractal is?
Yeah, I know a fractal.
So the fractal has a generating function, but it also has like a full fleshed out projected actual simulated thing. We can sort of access the former. We can access the generant. We can't really access even all the generant states because we're too small. We can access, at best, we can access the generants. So we could access like many generants, maybe, but they wouldn't be independent because there's nothing independent because the only truly independent thing is 3 plus 1, which isn't even independent, right? So stuff like null hypothesis is completely impossible if this is true. Because if this is true, then nothing is ever independent of anything. Because even the most independent thing is totally dependent.
Yeah. I'm muting my mic so I don't make noise.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So yeah, I guess I'm trying to just work on better metaphors as well, but mostly people need to not make metaphors because metaphors requires you to know something. And you're abstracting a metaphor off extant knowledge. You're not regurgitating a metaphor in order to substantiate some belief you think is going to help somebody. It's like, that's not how improvement gets made. It gets made on the personal level.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Because, yeah, I guess I am working on the presupposition they kind of understand the concept, I guess.
I mean, if you really want to see things from where they're coming from, you can, but you have to presuppose that where you're at right now, you can't do that. And you have your own projections that are getting in the way of diagnosing anybody. And only after going through a long period of what you might call penance and purification and purging of any type of false impression can one start to do things like what they already take for granted that they can do, that they can like read minds of people and be like, well, you believe something that I can somehow make seem like it extrapolates to a contradiction, which means something. It's like, then how do you explain so many people who believe in religion? If people aren't somehow allowed to believe in things that entail contradictions, and religions entail contradictions, and so many more people are religious than not, like, how do you square that circle? You there?
Yeah, I was just listening to you.
Yeah.
I have my mic on mute.
Okay. I really just can't do much other than answer questions on these types of streams. So, yeah. Someone said they don't understand the diagram. It's just a vibrating string.
Yeah, I think this is what they call the stacking of fermions or something like that.
No, this is just a simple, like a guitar string.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's a guitar string.
Well, you can pluck it at different frequencies, and the frequencies correspond to whatever. That's an analogy for how matter works, because matter waves are a thing. So there's a natural frequency to all matter, blah, 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 blah. So basically everything just comes back to stacking what you might call eigenstates. And it's actually not that hard, because the entropy tells you basically what's going to be the most populated one. Entropy will predict like a very good approximation to a general distribution, because the energies of the ones at the bottom of this diagram are higher than the ones at the top, because it takes more energy to generate basically the top versus the bottom.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought but don't the ones at the bottom have more energy?
Yeah, that's what I meant to say if I didn't say that. The ones at the one at the bottom has more, because the frequency is the thing that tells you the energy. And the quantum systems that are entirely dictated by light, energy is entirely a function of frequency.
Yeah.
But it's not just one frequency, because they're waveforms that have multiple constituent frequencies. So the question is, how do we resolve a waveform into its constituent frequencies in the most computationally efficient manner?
I wouldn't know.
Right. So until you do know, you shouldn't be making pronouncements on the ether, because it may make sense to you in your head that the ether is something, but if you can't make a compelling case for it, and there's so much, like, I had a combo with a guy that I honestly thought was going really well, like really well.
Mhm.
And it was lucid and everything, and he seemed to be listening, and then I mentioned the ether at one point, and it just catapulted into just basically a complete shutdown. And I was like, it's just negative volume, like negative space, assuming he knew it from art. Like, who doesn't know what negative space is from art?
Yeah,
Of just like sketching a landscape based on what's not there, I think.
yeah, but that gets a little bit, I guess, a little bit too meta. And
Visualizing three
yeah,
dimensions is too difficult.
and that might just, like, people are like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, maybe I find visualizing singularities too difficult. What then? Because to me, ether is pretty dang easy to visualize, I gotta say. It's really pretty.
Oh, okay. I would say it probably looks like whatever people on acid say it looks like. You know, where they're like, they go people, you know, the stereotypical acid trip looks like
No?
that's scene from Space Odyssey 2021.
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay. There's a scene on Space Odyssey with, like, it looks trippy, kind of like that.
Space Odyssey. That's the one with the baby floating in space?
Yeah,
And the
that's the
monkeys
one. Yeah.
screeching?
That one.
Uh-huh. I couldn't get into that one, sorry.
I haven't watched it either, but I just know that scene.
I'm starting to think Culture Vulture is a Claire Ka alt account. What do you think?
What? Why?
Hey, look who it is! Montreal's in the house. 2 hours and 38 minutes. How sober are you? I keep hearing this name. You know,
Which name?
Jack Angstreich, or I don't know how to say Angstreich. I don't know how to say that name.
Wait, are they in the chat?
Yeah.
Jangle Stick? Are you talking about Jangle Stick?
No. Kazakh said I'm the anti-Jack Angstreich.
Oh, okay. Oh, Kazakh. She's a Czech. I don't know who that is. And look that up.
Yeah, I don't know who it is either. I've been looking into the other one.
Okay, Jan Strick is One of the Stars of Cinema, a 2002 documentary by Stefan Kijak and Angela. He's some sort of film buff. I think yeah, he's some sort of film buff or something like that.
How could I be the anti him then?
Because you don't know about movies.
Oh, well, I know about a few movies, but I have to spend most of my time studying. Physics are hard.
Yeah, I mean, like that. It is. I'm still trying to like do catch up on this because I mostly do focus on the biological argument because
Just focus on the periodic table, the 3D periodic table. Just focus on it and realize that same basic information resonates, but crystallizes differently on different orders. And we are just sort of in a superposition minimum energy state relative to the total universe where we can have a semi-stable existence, a la carbon. Yeah, Claire, it's so obviously you. Like I said, you're fucking shitting up my chat. If you're going to come here under an alt, at least don't be so nutso as to be obviously yourself, and I can figure it out in 6 messages. Like, come on.
You stop bullying Claire. Let her in. Let her in. I talked to Claire on the Discord. She's base.
No comment.
Oh yeah, she's real base.
Yeah.
Busted. Lol.
I know, it's like people are just so dang obvious. Oh, I love it. So what are you up to these days?
Me? Well, I've been trying to I've just been playing like Yu-Gi-Oh and getting my butt handed to me. Like do you know what Yu-Gi-Oh is?
Not really. I mean, I've heard the name. It's like a video game, right? Like
Yeah,
Pokemon?
it's a children's card game. So I've been losing to kids on the internet.
Well, I guess that's good to be more humble.
It's not that I'm trying to be humble. It's I'm trying to win and losing at it.
Okay, so he's a debate bro and a movie buff. Yeah, it's probably better if this guy and I never cross paths. We can just divide the internet in two, and he can stay on one side, and I'll be on the other. And I'll just be like, hey, guys, what's up, everybody?
Well, I would say I'm a bit of a debate bro now, and because I do love movies. I am a bit of a movie buff. I'm a movie snob. It's like, oh, you like that movie? I seen better. Like so and so did it better. So I am a bit of a movie snob.
Oh yeah, domain-specific knowledge is very desirable. I have a friend, I forget what he is, the wine buff. There's a name for it. I'm going to butcher it, but I'll just try to remember it. But anyway, some French name. He can just pick the most amazing wines. It's really something. I don't know how people do it. I guess it's the same with movies theory. There's just not enough good movies. I feel like I've seen all the good movies. I was like, I don't really want to hear somebody review like The Hangover 3 or something.
Yeah.
Just saying.
If I do recommend it, you know which movie have you seen? I think this one movie you should watch. I think this is the greatest movie ever made. It's called Hard to Be a God from 1989. And I think it really encapsulates I guess humanity, and it's real. You have to see it for yourself. It's not this hangover type. It's
I'm sorry, but The Hangover was a classic, wonderful movie that I rewatch on a regular basis. You know, so don't go too crazy here. I just feel like there was I don't know, movies were really awesome in the late '90s, and they peaked, and now there's like not even any really good ones anymore. So I don't know.
Yeah, they are more like product now. They're like, here's what the stats tells us. We're gonna make a movie according
Yeah,
to the stats.
exactly. Not a like. Remember Star Wars? How awesome that was.
I do like the prequels, even though they're badly executed. I do like the premise.
Well, they couldn't lean so hard into the CGI stuff like they do now.
Yeah, and I mean,
Like, what's his name George Lucas had to make the set out of, I think he said he cannibalized Battleship not board games, but you know the Battleship game?
yeah,
Yeah, he just made it out of those. Could you imagine like sawing up like 50 Battleship games and just looking around at everybody? That reminds me, I met a guy from Hollywood once, and he was just like telling me about what it was like and how they had to cut, like before they had any of the, you know, computer-based stuff. They had to do it all by hand with literal frames.
yeah. It's stop motion animation kind of stuff.
Yeah, they cut a person out of a single frame, and there were 24 frames per second, so they had to cut person out of all those frames and reassemble them all and sort of superimpose them somewhere else. So they said he would just have to work 20-hour days or something, and it was nonstop cocaine.
Yeah, good thing it was the 80s. There's plenty of that.
I don't know if it was the 80s or the 90s, because this was in the 2000s that I talked to this guy.
Yeah, but I'm guessing like when they were doing the stop sort of oh no, you're talking about the prequels?
Well, I was just sort of buttressing my pet theory that there was a sort of apex in quality of movies. This kind of culminated around the millennium.
There was. I mean, it's definitely gotten worse now.
It's just so like it's you know what you're gonna get. It used to be kind of cool because you didn't quite know what you were gonna get.
Yeah.
But there was one, like, even this one recent movie was about a murder mystery, and it was a chair made out of swords or something. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I know this. I'm thinking Game of Thrones when you said
No,
that.
no. It was a movie about it was a murder mystery, and there was some old guy who was being taken care of by some, I don't know. It was supposed to be like a, you know. Have you ever seen the movie Clue? Kind of like a murder mystery, kind of. But Clue is like an actually good one. But this was just so.
I know Clue.
So you do know that you do know Clue, just the board game or the movie?
I know the board game, and I know I think the movie was based on the board game, right?
Yeah, it was actually epic. Yeah. One of those rare. Yeah. It just wasn't. It just felt. Yeah, I don't know.
Je ne sais quoi.
McDonald's ish. Like I wanted, you know.
Oh, okay.
Steak tartare. I go see a movie. I want steak tartare. And I get served McDonald's, and it's like, well, I mean, it's not terrible, but you know,
consumable.
Just say it's palatable. But I was hoping for steak tartare. So
you're looking for that fancy French taste, that very unique stuff. If you want that, look up the movie Tycho Moon. That is something different. Here, I'll type it in the chat, the YouTube chat.
Like, honestly, how much more effed up can comments get? than
What,
this.
what happened?
Well, it's just obviously Claire here on an alt. I told you not to come to my channel, Claire.
We gotta
Nobody
believe
wants to
Claire.
hear Claire. Least
I
of
like
all me.
Claire.
That's great. Have a fun time talking to Claire, not around me. I did my time with Claire. There we go. So yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about, or
No, I mean it's been a slow week. It wasn't nothing much. I mean, there was a debate with Leo, but it's going against Kent, and Kent is got a script, and people who have a script aren't fun.
predictable?
Yeah.
It's not connoisseur, but I appreciate you saying that. It's even more, niche. Something like degustation or something. General vicinity of. So many words. So little time.
Yep. Should we end the stream? I mean, there's nothing much going on. We'll go back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Start losing again.
Have fun losing to the kids. I'll talk to you next time, and thanks for sharing what you did.
All right, later.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Talk to you next Sunday, if not sooner.
Yeah, that's just
Bye-bye for now.
I mean, so to say, a worthless opinion of.
It's so important that she can't be told, she won't be told that it's wrong. And
bringing it back to Church of Entropy and her attack dog Gandalf the White.
Why don't you learn to shut up and fuck your goddamn logic?
they control the media, and the media is capable of making the sheeple believe in anything.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, we've had these streams, and I've been doing with Church of Entropy, and she's been bringing on new people, and like we did those streams on like stream etiquette. We walked through like the technology.
I have like very strongly negative opinions of the kind of Brundle clique.
Is she trying to garner
She's trying to
herself
create
cult
community
prestige by
through a-
associating
community.
herself with a retard?